So, transfer deadline day is upon us. Well, it's been upon us for, 9 hours now? Is it 9 hours going on? Oh, no, 10 hours. I've got some of the usual suspects, some people you don't really hear from that often. I've got Gav, Jimmy, Callum's not with us. I've got Graham and I've got Copley. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Oh, good, oh, good.
Everybody's
It's
happy.
fucking deadline day, bitches!
Transfer deadline day!
I'm all right.
That was a bit weird after.
Well, I was going to jump in.
Apart from Graham is excited.
But I'm excited. I show excitement in different ways.
Good times, fair enough. We'll talk more about that later, I think. If you've been living under a rock, you won't have known what's going on with Sunderland right now, or maybe you're not living under a rock and there's just nothing going on with Sunderland right now. Last we heard, there were, 3 people at the academy, I believe. They were looking to sign deals. Gav, what do you know about it, mate? Anything likely to happen anytime soon?
Well, from what Keith Downey's just tweeted, we on-signed the striker, which is probably the worst piece of news anyone could have given us, because if you'd spoke to any Sunderland fan, if you'd done a straw poll of 1,000 Sunderland fans and said, what's the priority position that was strengthened today, every single person would have said striker, number one priority. Yet we've got here today, by all accounts, Bruce has just pulled the plug on McCormack because he doesn't want to sell to a rival. Bearing in mind that it's now surfaced that was pulled yesterday. So what have we been doing since yesterday? I mean, we've got 2 hours to sign a striker, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we've majorly dropped the bollock. We're now looking at going into the season with James Vaughan grabbing, and then hoping Watmore returns semi-fit and able to kick straight on, and then Josh Madja, who, a good young player, but we're expecting a lot of these lads, and I think we've maybe dropped the ball there. But we'll see how the next 2 hours goes, I guess. I just think we've maybe cut ourselves a little short, and a few of the players that we're being linked with sound all right in theory, provided they come in, but they're loans, and I think we can go off the last couple of years how badly we've dealt with having loan players at Sunderland and how it's done us no good in the long term. I just think we're shooting ourselves in the foot, really. But I think McManaman could be a strong sign, and I think when he was at Wigan, he was a good player, and he's lost his way a little since. But I mean, for the Championship, you'd expect somebody like that would be all right. Gives us a bit of width and pace, and he does work hard, which is what Grayson likes his wingers to do. Mark Wilson hasn't played a lot of football in the last couple of years. Signed for Bournemouth last summer, and then hasn't made an appearance. Went out to West Brom and only got his games towards the end of the season in May. And then obviously, other than those two, we're looking at Williams, aren't we, from Palace, who the Palace fan that I interviewed on the site today sung his praises. Thought he's an absolutely brilliant player who's just been unfortunate with injuries, and if he stays fit, could be a real asset to us. And then obviously Ipswich fans think the world of him when he was there last year. So I think of the 3, he's the most impressive. I just find it a little strange that centre mids that ended up being the best sign we've made today, if indeed all 3 of those go through. So let's see how it transpires. I'm just a little bit worried that we've left ourselves short.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's loads to talk about tonight. Plenty of time to talk about it. I mean, yeah, you're talking about how short we're going to be. Yeah, I don't think anyone's sitting there really expecting any fantastic signings through the door. I think a lot of fans are probably sitting there and expecting very little. It's safe to say that it's been a very dull fucking transfer window so far. We were told there'd be no money. We were told that there'd be very little to work with. I would hope that. I mean, does anyone remember the 15 million budget that was bandied around? I'm sure that was it.
I don't think it's coming anytime soon.
No, I don't think it's coming anytime soon. Exactly. It's that was when you compare that to how much money is being spent around us today. I mean, obviously, you can't avoid it most days, but no chance of avoiding it today. It's fairly easy to get disenchanted, to get disappointed, but especially when you're talking about how we braced ourselves. I remember bracing myself for a really small, really small number of transfers and very few interesting things going on during this window. But I didn't think it would be this small. You know what I mean? Having said that, I suppose if by the end of the night we come out with 2 or 3 good players, were we really expecting any more than that? I'm not entirely sure. Copley, my friend.
A striker.
Oh, go on then, James. Tell me.
Well, we're
expecting a striker.
That's. I mean,
I didn't want to talk any else.
It's all very well and good, like them bringing in a few players. I mean, the players linked, like Callum McManaman looks. I think he's a decent signing, but the fact that they're not signing a striker for me is just it's just unforgivable. We're going to be left with frigging James Vaughan, aren't we? What are we going to do? Like, genuinely, how can you like rely on a striker that is just so inept in front of goal? That's what massively concerns me. I mean, have we even been linked with anyone today? Genuine question.
As a striker,
just McCormack, isn't it? Really?
Was it McCormack? Yeah, that was it.
And Rhodes in the past couple of days, but I don't think we're going to get either of them, are we?
Well, it's
a depressing thought for everybody.
You could be drinking that. That's something about the live version of this show is that I drink normally gets edited out, but there's obviously no time for that, no opportunity. So you'll be listening to me drinking, smoking throughout the entirety of this program. And swearing probably.
Apparently, the McManaman one's permanent. Just someone verified on Twitter there just confirmed he's a permanent deal.
So Callum McManaman.
Yeah,
Callum McManaman.
But
2 years by all accounts.
Callum McManaman was like a hot prospect like 5 years ago. Like, I know we're in this position now, but I don't know. It just he hasn't been linked with anybody else this transfer window, was he? And all of a sudden he's coming to us on deadline day. Like, how good is he really?
He's class, man.
I hope so.
He's got to be if he's done for us.
I mean, I hope he's not another jobber, but Christ.
Matt Wilson from he's the West Bromwich Albion reporter from the Express and Star. He said it's McManaman deal with Sunderland is a permanent one, a low fee.
Well, that makes me feel loads better.
Well, he's verified now. We know who they're.
We all know journalists know like loads of stuff anyway, so it's all good.
Could anything
I remember being really interested in McManaman a couple of years ago, before he made that move to West Brom, I think. Because I remember watching him on the pitch, and I remember thinking that he had like a touch of class about him. Now, I've looked since, and there's been a couple of articles about why he didn't quite make the cut at West Brom. And one of the points raised by one of their local journalists was that he was second choice to James McLean. And I saw that and I thought, well, if you second fiddle to that guy, like, how good can you really be? Because that man's a one-trick pony. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing special about James McLean. I don't say that from a bitter Sunderland fan point of view, although he is in all likelihood a complete cunt. But it's more about the fact that no, seriously, it's more about the fact
it's
that
a horrendous human.
It's mad.
I think when we all figured James McLean out was when he was still playing for Sunderland and before there was any kind of controversy. So yeah, he was very much a one-trick pony then, and then obviously he left and he was a bit of an arsehole and blah 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 blah. But yeah, so to me, if you're playing second fiddle under Tony Pulis as well, who isn't stupid by any stretch of the imagination, if you're playing second fiddle to James McLean, then what are your assets? What do you actually bring to the pitch? I mean, I suppose the only logical thing is that he runs at defenders and he tries to get crosses in. I mean, it's what you'd expect from a winger, I suppose. They're basic remit. But I would have hoped for something more. I mean, if you'd said to me that James McLean was coming and he wasn't a total arsehole, then I would be against it. Do you know what I mean? So to hear that we're getting somebody who hasn't been able to break past him is a bit.
If we look at this concern, like we all see that Simon Grayson's that man who he seems to like to rejuvenate, players who've lost their way. So maybe he could do that with McManaman. I mean, let's not forget he tried to break Massimo Hayadara, that Newcastle player's leg, and we're all down with that.
Yeah, everybody's
that's class.
We can all get on board with this.
But he's, if he once showed in the Premier League that like he could kick it with a mid-table side, and he looked pretty decent. So if Simon Grayson can get him fit, because I think he's had a few injury troubles as well. They can get him fit and get him firing. He's going to have more of an impact than Wabi Kazri. Let's be honest. He definitely will. Yeah,
well, that's possible, I suppose. I mean, the other thing that stands out is the injuries, though. I mean, not just him, but all the players that we're linked with, I think, all have injury. I suppose that's the whole point, isn't it? When you're working on, this isn't a shoestring budget, is it? This is like a non-existent budget. This is like tying your shoes with string, like not actual shoestring, just like twine with nothing. He's got less than nothing to work with. As I say, 15 million was the figure that was bandied about at first, and nowhere, not even close to 3 million. And it doesn't look like we're going to end on even 5 million. The way things are going right now, loans and these very small fees. I think the highest we've seen bid by Sunderland is £1 million. Now, I know we're in the Championship, but Christ Almighty, that's not even Championship level. That's below. You know what I mean? So I'm a bit concerned about that, to be honest.
Yeah, the crack earlier today with Tommy Elphick, where by all accounts we had a £1 million bid rejected from him. I saw that and I was like, Christ, that is how skint we are. We're underselling ourselves even to players like that. And obviously Villa weren't interested in shifting him. God knows what it's costing us just to loan these couple of players, but I'm gonna guess it's very minimal. Yeah. Williams just, to me, seems a bit of a strange deal. Like when you especially when you see what the Palace fans think of him. Apparently he was absolutely outstanding for them in pre-season and was one of the players that were really hoping would kick on. So to see that they're pretty happy to let him go does worry us slightly because of his injury record and things like that. But I mean, we do need number 10. I think Khazri leaving, even if he doesn't leave, I just think that number 10 is a bit of a priority position. I don't think that two up front works. Having a centre mid who can just sit in front of like Catmull and Dong and maybe play then a 4-3-3. Having somebody like Williams who can link up play effectively. We don't have a centre mid like that, which is quite annoying actually when you look at the fact we already have 5 of them and none of them are capable of playing that role. Maybe Rodwell to an extent, but he's made of fucking bandages, isn't he? So, I mean,
and he's not very good.
Well, and that as well. I mean, I saw the under-23s highlights and the fact 4 first-team players. I mean, two very senior players.
In there. Is Rodwell like the ghost of a former player, like a pre-war player?
He plays number 10 as well. That's the most worrying thing.
It's just like he never seems to go anywhere. He doesn't get any blame from anyone at the club.
He's got no mobility. He can't pass. He can't shoot.
Watched him play for the under-23s the other day, and he looked completely out of his depth against the reserves. I can't remember who we were playing actually, but whoever it was, it doesn't matter. He shouldn't be out of his depth in an under-23s game.
Well, me and Gav saw him against Tottenham, and he looked completely out of his depth there. Like he did a couple of neat things and played a couple of good passes, but other than that, he was largely anonymous. And you want players like Rodwell, when they cost so much, to kind of dominate a game, and he was nowhere near doing anything like that, and it's concerning. It just shows you how bad our recruitment's been over recent times.
He doesn't know he's a footballer, that's what I mean. He's taken a look to the head, and he only knows his name's Jack Rodwell because everyone keeps calling him that. Do you know what I mean? Something clearly wrong with him.
He looks constantly scared, and even physically, he should be dominating under 23s, and he didn't even look strong. It was the same with Djilabodji. Neither of them looked like physically imposing.
Let's talk about Djilabodji since you brought him up.
Thank God he's gone.
He's now off to, is it Rennes? Is that right? Am I right?
No, Dijon, wasn't it?
Dijon. Like the mustard.
It's delicious.
Keena's mustard to get him.
Nice. Now you know it's live.
Yeah, but seriously, apart from that being a delicious kind of mustard, there are many kinds of mustard, by the way. Maybe we'll revisit that later on in the pod. Let's talk about Djilabodji, though. Crap. I remember when he first arrived, he was, 8 million we paid for him. And apparently it wasn't, I was corrected. I thought it had been on Moyes' scouting list for a while, but as it transpires, he'd been on Sunderland's scouting list. I don't know who's running scouting at Sunderland right now, and something else we'll talk about in the massive amounts of time that we've got. But Djilabodji arrived, and we were all a bit, first of all, we couldn't pronounce his name. After we figured out how to pronounce his name, we were trying to work out if he could play football or not. He had a couple of good games, I think maybe 2 or 3 in total, none of which were start to finish, I don't believe. And yeah, he's been absolutely awful ever since. He's been clearly this deal that's gone through now. Clearly, he was made aware of it, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, because his performance hasn't been... I mean, it was terrible beforehand, but he clearly knows that he's not part of the setup. What do you make of Djilabodji, Graham? Got anything good to say about him?
No. Not really.
We'll wait for that one.
No, I was on mute, and I was also thinking, no. He's crap. He's actually... You always feel like you're too harsh on certain players if they're just not good enough, but I'm not convinced he's a footballer. Like he's just so bad. And he always plays with this massive smile on his face, like a stupid kid. Oh, bless him, he's made a mistake. Like he's crap. No, like I can't quite understand how he played for Chelsea and then why we paid 8 million for him. And I think if there's one transfer that sums up how stupid Martin Bain is and the whole era of Moyes and all that shite, it's him in it. Because 8 million, we're probably going to be paying for him till like, I mean, I heard rumours that like last year, the players that we were bringing in, like Ndong and all that kind of stuff, were on like these mad kind of installments, like over like 4 or 5 years. Like we're going to be paying for people like him and Barini over the next 4 and 5 years, and we're not going to get. I mean, the reason he's gone out on loan is because we cannot get money from him. I mean, who would realistically buy him? I can't believe anyone took him on loan because he's shit. He's absolutely crap. Like he's never really had one good game or even a patch of a good game. I can't believe we got rid of him. I just hope that we're not paying any of his wages because I imagine he's on a decent whack if he was at Chelsea.
Aye, pretty much everything what you've just said there rings true. Just a very poor footballer. I mean, I've seen him showing up twice this season, one playing for the under-23s, one playing against Carlisle in the Cup, and that kind of shows you where he's at. I don't know whether it's a confidence issue, whether he's just obviously he has no faith in his ability because he hasn't played very much. I mean, I do think that when he first came in, he didn't look too bad, and then around the time we started winning games in the winter, he had a couple of half decent displays, I'd say. But I just think for centre half, not to have any sort of awareness of what's going on around them, or the ability to communicate, or just the common sense to know when to get rid of a ball is galling, and it's even worse when you consider the teams that he's actually played for. I mean, Chelsea bought him deadline day and it kind of threw everybody because nobody knew who he was. But still, for Chelsea to have been looking at him does make you think they must have seen something in him. And then for him to come to us for £8 million, you have to think, well, has he got a really good agent or something? Because I just don't get that transfer whatsoever. I don't get how he ended up here. By all accounts, it was arranged before David Moyes walked through the door.
Well, you say that. Sorry to cut you off, but talking about Chelsea, I mean, Chelsea, their academy is incredibly difficult, or rather incredibly saturated, I would say, oversaturated. So, I mean, wasn't Barini in Chelsea's academy as well?
He's not a kid though, Damo, you know what I mean?
When was he signed for them?
What was that, sorry?
How old was he when he was signed for them?
Well, what's he, 20 or 29 now? So maybe 26. Yeah, 26.
Sorry, continue then. Carry on.
So you're not on about a young player. You're on about somebody who played a lot of football in France before Chelsea. Yeah, before Chelsea signed him. So I remember we posted something about Djilabodji. I think it was after the Carlisle game, and our Twitter mentions just blew up with Chelsea fans who found it hilarious because he's like, do you know, like what Milton Nunes is to us, that's what Djilabodji is to them. Like a total joke that they signed that nobody understood. That's Djilabodji to Chelsea fans. Yet they managed to fleece us for $6 million more than they paid for him. Just beggars belief. And it goes back to everything we've ever said about the state of this club, the way it's run, and who sanctions these deals and who actually scouts these players. God knows. I think when you consider that, I know we didn't pay $8 million right out, but that's what we'll end up paying. When you consider that we've paid £8 million for this player, and this summer we've spent less than $2 million. I mean, that's 4 times what we've spent on a full squad overhaul this summer, and that was only last year. It was 12 months ago, and we are letting that lad leave on loan. Thank God he's gone. But I mean, some of the outgoing business this summer, I just can't wrap my head around it. Like letting players leave on loan. Kazri, for instance, going to Rennes. If that goes through tonight. It's just been confirmed. Yeah, well, there we go. So there's a player left on loan there who we paid £9 million for. This time last year was the best thing since sliced bread, and we're letting him leave on loan now. This is the player in his prime, age-wise. And then you look at the fact that Rennes have just signed Diafra Sakho, I think, or they were meant to be signed Diafra Sakho for a big fee. And I look at that and I think, I know West Ham are in the Premier League and I know we're in the Championship, but how can we not get fees for these players? It just doesn't. It boggles me mind. Jeremy Lens goes to Turkey, is one of the most heralded players to play in that league, to the point where their champions have took him from us this year, and we haven't received any money other than the loan fee for a player who's blown people away in that country, and we couldn't negotiate a full transfer for him. It just, to me, it just smacks of we just want to get these people out the door as quick as we can to save on wages, to save on just the hassle of them being here. And it's kind of at the stage now where you look at it and you think, you look at what other teams are getting for players like Sonny Aluko. All right, he was Fulham's captain, but he's a very average player. Spoke to a Reading fan site today who they're kind of perplexed as to why they're signing him. £7.5 million for Sonny Aluko. Player was released from Hull, by the way, a year ago. Yet we can't even get that for 4 players. Fabio Barini, Lenz, Djilabodji and Kazri. We haven't even amounted that in 4 players. That, to me, it just really boggles my mind. Does me head in, actually, talking about it.
Lenz is a Dutch international as well.
Yeah?
He's a Dutch international and we can't even command a fee from him. And the thing is with Kazri as well, is that it's been reported that we won't be paying all of his wages. That his new club won't be paying all of his wages. We'll still be paying a part of his wages. They'll be paying most of it, but we'll still be footing a little bit of the bill for him. So even if we replace Kazri, if you look at the combined deal, we'll still be paying more for an inferior player when Kazri's gone anyway. So what is the point of loaning these players out? I really don't get it. There's something seriously wrong at the club, and I'm not sure they know what they're doing, really, half the time.
How can you? Like, I mean, honestly, I just pretty much just repeat what Gav said. Like, it boggles my mind how you can't bring in at least 5 or 10 million for those 3 players, and it's just Wahbi Khazri. If you look at Newcastle, they sold Grant Hanley for £3.5 million. How is Grant Hanley worth £3.5 million and we can't get anything for Wahbi Khazri? It's absolutely mental. Like, there must be someone. They're just completely inept on that board. They really are. They cannot negotiate the way out of a paper bag. Absolutely rank.
Lads, can I just jump in? We've had a comment on Facebook from a guy commenting on the stream. Just Cockneys and a Geordie talking complete and utter shite. Waste of time.
I'm from
Glad you're enjoying the show, everybody.
I'm from Henley. I don't know about the rest of you.
I'm from Durham.
I'm from Sunningdale.
I'm originally from Ascot.
It's nice when criticism is nice and constructive, isn't it?
Keep the comments coming.
Yeah, we're loving it. Happy to see you too, mate. Anyway, let's carry on. Where were we? Khazri. Oh my days, yes.
Gone?
I don't know if I'm glad. I mean, I am glad. I'm glad to see the back of a player that doesn't work. I'm glad of all that. But like you were just alluding to, it's all a bit. It's rotten that something that we have a player that clearly has so much talent, and it's one of those things, isn't it? It seems like it's one of those arguments for Allardyce as the manager. It seems like he just had those contacts, didn't he? He had the right people to talk to, and he obviously had a way with talking to the players that he had, because we had such an interesting time. Let's say a fantastic time, really, under him. A very short period of time, man. But yeah, it was. No, it's a shame. It's a shame that Khazri now is such a pale reflection of what he was then, because we all saw some fantastic goals, some fantastic passes, crosses, and that, and some skills. It was really good. It brings excitement. You don't often get that watching Sunderland. You don't often get tricky players, and then it's easy to see that. I mean, a lot of teams, a lot of fans of other teams would say, "Oh well, he's nothing special." I suppose that's an indictment of how little we see that sort of those attributes and those skills, that ability at the club. I mean, not in quite a while, to be honest. And we never really have an abundance, do we? We always have like one or two maybe, and one of them's normally injured and then gets passed off to another one. But it is a shame. It's a shame to see him go for nothing, and especially this idea. What was it that we're paying some of his wages as well while he's there? Like how much of his wages? That doesn't make any sense, does it? He would have taken like a 50% wage cut, and then if we can afford to pay another, so essentially 25% of what he was on last year, if it is a 50% deal with Rennes, then could we afford to like keep him? Do you know what I mean? Because if we're skin, and you're telling me that we have to sell, or rather we have to loan out Khazri to free up wage funds, but we all know that everyone took a 40% wage cut, including Khazri. I'm not sure what that would take him down to, but it must be close to 20 odd, if that, 20, and like small 20s, 22,000, something like that maybe. And then we're going to pay 50% of it again. We're only saving like 10,000, 12,000. Why? Are we that skinned 12,000 is going to add to a budget that's already clearly like shattered. There is no budget, is there? It's quite pathetic. So I don't get it personally. I don't understand the need. Like most of you, like James in particular, I don't understand why we would get rid of him for that price. I don't understand why Grayson, who seems to be a man who can manage, who seems to be able to put his arm around their shoulders and convince them to just do their job really and play well. I'm a bit concerned that he couldn't coax that out of Khazri. I don't know. That tells me that Khazri's not just unhappy. It tells me that he's upset with the club. Do you know what I mean? And that's what concerns me. Why would he be upset?
He's full of shit as well.
Yeah, it could be. Could be, but he was upset. And if he's upset, why was he upset with Moyes? Do you know what I mean? It's all just weird. It's like, why was it great under Allardyce, but then it was crap under Moyes and it was crap under Grayson? And I don't know. It's just interesting. But yeah, what about you, Graham? What do you make of it?
I mean, with the cost-cutting thing, it's funny. Someone was just put on the live stream there about Bain, and they're saying that he was brought into Rangers to cost cut, and now they effectively, technically, sorry Rangers fans, but cease to exist. Why did we really employ him? Based on his previous his previous acumen, if you prefer. I mean, that I'm not an expert on Rangers, despite where I live, but I remember there's no one up here that thinks very much of Martin Bain. I remember when he got the job, and I was like, he's saying the right things, and a load of my Rangers mates were like, just wait and see what he does. He's like, it's an absolute fucking nightmare. And I really, really want to like the bloke because I want to will something on to do well and think we've got the right people in charge. But like Gav says, how the fuck is all these players like Khazri, who was 9 million a season and a half ago, and Dillaboji 8 million a season ago, and I know they've both had pretty poor seasons, but to the point where we cannot actually even get a little bit of money for them, and I cannot imagine they're asking for very much. I mean, that's another thing. It's not like we're kind of digging our heels in and saying no, we want 7-8 million. That's it. What was it? Lens was apparently available for about 4.
I don't know. Was it 4? Yeah, something like that.
I mean, it was rumored. You never know, but stuff like that, it's not exactly we're asking for a big fee, especially in today's market. I mean, Lens in today's market must be worth at least 10. You probably factor into his age, maybe bring it down to about 7. But you had teams from Turkey literally begging to have him, fighting over him. I mean, do you remember all the tweets that we used to get from Turkish fans and that?
Yeah.
As soon as he scored a goal, and it's if the fans want him that bad, could we not?
They were passionate though. I'll give them that. They were very angry, weren't they? They got very agitated. Give us Lens. Give us Lens. There were kinds of awesome insults being slung around. I haven't got any to hand now, but obviously with the English of it all, the poor translation, some of it was fantastic. And
yet all of that of how much they wanted him, and we sent him out on loan.
We got some people commenting on YouTube. The general consensus is that they're all a bunch of wankers, really. Bain, Short, and no one can get past it. No one. This is the trouble, isn't it, with our owner now? It's regardless of how many platitudes come out, he gets to write his apologies for him or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or just the crap, basically. You know what I mean? I'm sick of hearing about it. But it's interesting that, in spite of all the money he's pumped into the club, and he has pumped in money to the club without a doubt over the years, it still ended with this sort of enmity. And regardless of how this all pans out, I mean, I don't think we're under any illusions as fans as to whether or not he's going to keep the club or not. He's obviously going to sell it, but it's interesting. You get that sort of double standards without it. You feel like your intelligence is insulted when you get that. What was it he said? That statement. I've always provided for Sunderland. I've always basically had Sunderland's best interests at heart, and I'll continue to support the club. And this was off the back of trying to sell it. It's can you imagine that? Can you imagine breaking up with your girlfriend or whatever, or your boyfriend, saying oh yeah, I'm going to leave you. I'm done with this. This is I'm out. I'm looking for options. I'm dating. I'm back in the game. And then you get knocked back, or you decide that this person isn't good enough for you, and you come crawling back, and you're well, you don't even have to come crawling back, do you? You just come waltzing back in your house, sit down, and be like, you know what, I've always supported you, I've always loved you, so I'm going to stay with you forever now. And it's it's not really happening, is it? It's the most ridiculous thing you could hear. So obviously, no.
What's to blame the most, Damo? What is it? Because as you said, he has put money in. No one here can say that Ellis, and especially in the start of his tenure, he did put money in, and he did seem to care. But it's so similar to what happened with Randy Lerner at Villa, isn't it? Where it started out so positive, started out with this grand master plan to turn an underachieving Premier League side into one of the big boys. And I think he's just got bored. It's just come to that, and he's thrown good money after bad to try and protect his investment.
I don't know. Got bored? Do you think it's that he's got bored? I think. Let's not. I don't know. Let's try and just make it. Let's try and rationalise it in a business way. Not. I mean, I'm a layman without a doubt. I think we all are here, but try and rationalise it in the sense of, well, it's an asset. And I mean, remember what Ellis Short does as well. That's how he made his money. He works with distressed assets. He takes organisations. He takes property or whatever. He takes things that are run down, and he turns them around and sells them for a profit. Essentially, that's his MO. That's how he made the most of his money. And obviously, you've got Sunderland, who was sold to him, as in the idea of Sunderland was sold to him as the old cliches, a sleeping giant, and it's got great facilities, and the fan base is brilliant, and you know what I mean. You can do big things with this. No doubt, the same sort of things that he's now saying to potential investors, potential buyers. Or he's hiring someone to do that for him. And with that in mind, how can we really blame him when it gets to this stage, when we've been in, as we say, he's sunk in money every 20, 30 million pretty much every year for what, 4 or 5 years? It's a lot of money. Obviously we're in a lot of debt because of some of the ridiculous dealings that have been done. But it's one of those things. I don't think he treated it as a toy. Perhaps he was careless with his money at first, but there's no doubt in my mind that he went into it as this is a business decision.
Really?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he went into it as a business, and I don't think it was like a toy. I don't think he's got enough money to own a football club and mess around with it like this. I mean, he clearly has because he's doing it. But the way he's acting recently,
how stupid could he be though? Because he didn't surround himself with people who know football.
No, I'm not saying, I'm not denying that. I'm not defending him in any way. I'm just saying that I don't think it was a toy. I think this is a failed business venture for him. I don't think it's like I'm bored of this now, I'll put it down. I think it's more like it's more like going to a casino, do you know what I mean? And losing a bit too much, losing a bit more than you're actually comfortable with because you've been there all night and you probably had a bit too much to drink. And that's what it strikes me as, like, oh, actually, this isn't good. I'm checking my bank balance now. Yeah, it's disposable income, but still.
Do I really want to spend it? You know,
yeah, exactly. Damn it! I was going to buy that argument back scratcher.
Interestingly, like looking at the live chat of the people who are watching, there's a bloke called Mark Pennington's made a great point. His short investment isn't the problem; it's his choice of personnel that's been the biggest issue, and he's bang on actually, because it's maybe he's thought it was easier than it is, and his lack of surrounding himself with people who actually know the game, that's been his biggest mistake. And the fact that like every decision that he's made has been pretty much wrong, you know, like from a management level.
Even from a chief executive level, the Martin Bain thing is just ridiculous. I mean, this is a man that last February, whilst survival in the Premier League was still very much a possibility, Bain announced redundancies among staff at the club in order to cut costs. And, you know, the staff were generously offered the option to take voluntary redundancies via email, which wasn't a very astute move. And it just kind of fosters a bad mentality and a defeatist mentality around the club. And this came in the same week as well that Bain sent Sunderland's players on an all-expenses-paid trip to New York, and we didn't win a game since then. I said this on the podcast last week. And this undoubtedly cost the club, in financial peril, a fair whack, while doing absolutely nothing to help the team on the field. It's beyond belief. Like, what has he paid for? And his remit is to cut costs and to get rid of, you know, ground level Sunderland staff while he's on undeservedly, I would say, and many would say, you know, thousands of pounds. And this is a man that, as Graham said earlier, didn't do too well at Rangers, yet still managed to sit on a fat paycheck. And again, you know, is football and knowledge. Martin Bain was the one that decided to stick with Moyes mid-season when it was clear to all, I mean, clear to everybody really in the footballing world that Moyes was not going to make a success of Sunderland. And it was Martin Bain who stuck by him and told everybody everything was going to be fine. And, you know, that didn't happen. If Bain had acted decisively and ditched Moyes when it was evident that it wasn't going to work, then the club might have had a chance at survival. We might have been able to have that bounce. And, Bain's managed to negotiate profits for Van Aanholt and Pickford, but other than that, what's he actually done? He couldn't woo Derek McInnes, and he ended up with Simon Grayson, who I don't blame. But even in his recruitment of a new manager in the summer, it just seemed like Martin Bain was ringing his mates. It was just blatant cronyism. Was Walter Smith he brought in to help? It was like Walter Smith hasn't done anything for 5 or 6 years in football, hasn't been active, but because he's Scottish like Martin Bain, we're going to bring him in and he's going to help us find a new manager who's going to be the Holy Grail. It just doesn't make sense to me at all.
I think there you go. The key word there is Holy Grail. I don't think that was ever the plan. I don't think or Messiah, I suppose you're going for. There was never a plan there to bring in the manager that was going to fix it all. I think this whole, going back to what we were saying about Ellis Short, when Moyes came around, I don't know if it was just bitterness. So we've covered all of this on previous pods, by the way. Don't forget, you can go back and listen to all of those if you might, enjoy it. Yeah, you will enjoy it, actually. It's fantastic. It's like 40-odd episodes now. In fact, this is our 41st episode. So, big things on our birthday, on our big 4-1. But yeah, going back to Ellis Short, he was, the way he spoke about David Moyes when he came in, I don't know if it was just bitterness towards Advocat. I think probably partially, but what was it? I've been after it. It's the manager I've been after for, no, not just Advocat, but Allardyce, manager I've been after for 5 years. It was the last 5 previous appointments. And that's quite a big statement. Do you know what I mean? When you consider some of the managers that we've had, like we've had some crap managers. There's no denying that. We've had some proper shit managers through the years, even in the last 10 years. But we've had some great managers as well. And some of the managers under Ellis Short, even talking about Dick Advocat, who a lot of people don't rate, he's a solid football. He's got a solid footballing mind. I don't think he should have been here. I don't think he should have been made to stay here. This is what I mean. It's like when Advocat took the manager's role, it was a big sort of, it seemed like he was forced to do it, like he was doing a favour for a friend. I wonder if that's not what we're talking about. Like, it wasn't just Bain calling up whoever to come in and help or to hire a manager for him. It was before that. Ellis Short does that. He works on sort of like an informal basis, I suppose. I suppose that's part and parcel of not understanding the region that you're going into, not understanding the community, not understanding the spiritual side of the game, of the club. You need help. You know what I mean? I think it was very apparent to him very quickly that he was a bit out of his depth. And so he did a rational thing, which was to reach out and speak to people who knew what they were talking about, or at least told him that they knew what they were talking about. So it's understandable, is all I'm saying, that he surrounded himself with, not sycophants, but surrounded himself with people who made out that everything was going to be okay, that they could help him. Yeah, yes, men. So people who were perhaps working for their own gain. Now, I'm not trying to defend him in any way, and I don't want to paint this picture as like some defenseless, vulnerable person who's like been taken the piss out of, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. All of the mistakes of the last, 9 years? No, how many years now under Short?
Do you think he'd hire people as inept as he's hired to run Sunderland, as to run his other businesses? This is the thing. That's a good question. Do you think he's treated running of Sunderland differently to the way he's treated?
I don't know. It's a great question. Because what we'd have to do is we'd have to look at, I suppose, his previous business history. We'd have to look and see what sort of industries he was working in and what sort of market he failed in. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously I find it hard to believe that he'll have gone through although he is a rich man, he'll have gone throughout his entire career without suffering losses. In fact, I'm told it's impossible to become a rich man without losing a lot of money first. So I think if we were to go back with a fine-tooth comb and really examine everything that he's done, if we were of a mind to, we won't be doing that tonight, guys, don't worry. We won't be whipping out all of the previous financial records of Ellis Short and examining them. But yeah, if you was to do that, you'd probably find that he's made these mistakes before and he's probably bailed out. And don't forget, it does get to a certain point with money where you can literally buy more money. You can, when it gets to a certain stage, if your money is expendable enough, you can hire 3, 4, 5, 6 people to do a job. And obviously, if the predecessor doesn't do the job, you can fire them and get another one and get another one and get another one. But eventually, I think it's probably an indicator of how wealthy he is, how much risk he's willing to take. the fact that he's stayed up with a losing product, which is what we were for such a long time. That's what I would say about it, personally. What about you guys? What do you make of it?
I've just seen something quite funny that made us laugh. Totally out of topic. But there's a bloke called Ross Collier. He said our debt's 72% of our turnover. Apparently it's more than Serbia, Egypt and Moldova. How does he know the finances of Moldova? I'm just thinking, fucking hell. Like I'm not like, I'm just impressed.
Well, I mean, I guess if we look at who's signed today and everything, I mean, you've got obviously McManaman signing on a permanent, and I don't really know much about, is it Mark Wilson? Yeah, from Bournemouth. Yeah. I mean, I'm not too sure. I know he can play like maybe centre half or full back, but he's never played in the Premier League for Bournemouth, since like they've been promoted. So, I mean, I don't know absolutely anything about him. But I guess it shows where we are as a club, doesn't it? If we're kind of scraping around the barrel, looking at players that can't even get a game for Bournemouth in the Premier League.
He was played not long ago, though, didn't he?
I'm looking on the.
No, he was a regular at Stoke, and then Bournemouth signed him, and he hasn't kicked the ball for Bournemouth. They loaned him out January last year at West Brom. He sat on their bench till May and played like a couple of games towards the end of the season. So I think he's actually played more international football than he has club football in the last year or so. But Mark Wilson's versatile. He can play centre half, right back, and centre mid, which I'm guessing is a big factor in why we've signed him. Not only the fact that he's probably really cheap and didn't take a lot of convincing to come, considering he can't get a game anywhere else. But I mean, you've got to kind of respect that versatility in our squad, because we haven't got a lot of players. So we do need the occasional player out and cover a couple of positions and at least fill in, do a job. He's a do a job player, is what Mark Wilson is. But he plays international football, and you'd like to think he knows a fair few of the players, so he shouldn't take too long to slot in and help out on, obviously, as we strive through the championship. But I'm just hoping that I'm clutching at straws, really. Let's be honest, it's a shit signing, but we need bodies. We need bodies as the top and bottom of it. And if he comes in and we get something out of him this season, then fantastic. But I mean, I think he's really just been signed to cover the fact that we've got rid of Djilabodji, and I think if his main position centre half, and we need cover there because we've let two centre halves go today in Ledger and Djilabodji, then fair enough. But I go back to what I said at the top. Striker was a priority, and the fact we sat here at 9:45, clearly not going to sign a striker, just riles me something rotten, because I just can't believe we had all of our eggs in one basket with McCormack. Clearly we thought it didn't matter, we were going to get him, and it sounds like Bruce has dogged we're in and said you're not having him. So I'm more annoyed at that fact that we then scrambled around trying to get Jordan Rhodes by all accounts, and players like that. Just, it smacks of bad scouting. It's what I said in the podcast the other day. We clearly don't have anything in place. Certainly not a well thought out scouting plan in place to account for issues like this. Like when we're number one target, we aren't able to get them. We don't have a number 2 or a number 3 clearly, or would be talking about who's coming through the door in the next hour. But yeah, I just struggle a little bit with the fact that we're so ill prepared all the time, and it's just another Sunderland transfer window where you're left feeling a little deflated. Even though, Damian, you said earlier, actually, you put it quite well. You listed all the players off that would sign, and you went, is that decent for the outlay was spent? And I would agree to an extent when you look at all the names written down and you think like James Vaughan, experienced striker who will work hard for you, grabbing, scored goals at this level. McGeady, one of the best players last season at this level. Browning and Galloway, two promising young players from Everton. All right, one of them struggled a little bit since he came, but he can't really complain. Then we've replaced £32 million worth of goalkeepers with Steele, who's looked a little shaky, and Router, who, all right, he didn't play too great at Barnsley, but everyone seems pretty hot on him. I mean, right through, you would think that those are solid championship signs that add to what we've already got. I just worry that this has been my worry for a number of weeks now. I honestly think we're banking on Watmore coming back and being this superstar who's going to run the lines and score goals for us in the championship and pick up where he left off from, because he's got such a brilliant attitude and his pace will add so much to our team that we're literally banking on this kid coming back and hit the ground running. And you've got to think, with a knee injury like he's had, it's almost impossible to expect anything of him. And I just think that the reason we haven't pushed so hard for a striker is because Watmore's coming back, and he's going to be back maybe after the international break. It's I don't know. I think we're leaving ourselves short on that one player. No, it totally isn't enough. For me, a big centre forward was the priority. Jordan Hugill, when he was linked for $2 million at the start of the window, just seemed like a sensible piece of business to me. Maybe we didn't have the money at the time, but now you've seen the last couple of days, Preston turning down like 8 and 10 million for him. And I just wonder if he hadn't started the season so well, or maybe we'd signed him before the season started, maybe we would have got him. I don't know. Players like that, I think we could look back at maybe 6 months down the line and go, we really should have went all out and signed him, because it's patently obvious we don't have a target man. We don't have any. All right, Vaughan tries his best and Graben tries his best, but they're not target men. They're not going to win aerial duels with big centre halves. We are missing that element in our squad, and we're banking on Watmore coming back and maybe building a team around him where he's able to get in behind and catch teams on the break. That worries me slightly.
We playing him up top with Vaughan. Do you think that's how we're playing him? And they're playing Graben wide, or
I think I think the signing of Williams. Is it Williams? Johnny Williams? I think the signing of him maybe indicates that we're going for a 4-3-3, where I think it's obvious Cattermole and Ndong is the choice pairing in the centre, but they don't have anybody in front of them linking the play. Williams is that type of player by all accounts, gets on the ball, gets with his head up and tries to play forward passes. And if you think, well, we've signed him, he's not going to be coming from Palace to be a bench warmer. He's well thought of there, and they want him to be playing football. You think that midfield three, where maybe Watmore playing off the right again, like he did when he was playing quite well last season, maybe Graben down the middle, and then off the left, McGeady. I think that's probably Rory wrote a really good piece about this on the site this week about systems that Grayson could use going forward. And I agree with what he said about the 4-3-3. I just think with the players we've got, that's probably when Watmore's fit, our best option really, just a sitting two with a number 10 playing in front of them, Watmore off the right, McGeady off the left, and Graben up front. And hopefully, Oviedo can help up that left-hand side and maybe let Jones sit deeper like he did when Watmore was in the team. Jones looked all right with Watmore in front of him because he didn't have to get forward. I think that sort of system will probably suit this squad best. I hope we're not banking too much on Watmore, because he's going to take a month or so to get back into it.
Yeah, he is. We don't want to put too much pressure on a lad who, let's be honest, is extremely raw. I mean, he was extremely raw last season. We know when he went through a bit of a purple patch, but I mean, he's still, he doesn't put his head up enough. His touch is still not quite there, and it's going to take him a couple of months actually to get properly up and running. Because if we rush him back and he loses that pace and he does his knee again, then we're buggered. Because there's so little options. I mean, other than say the three wide players we have now in McGeady, McManaman, and Watmore, you've only really got someone like maybe Lyndon Gooch who could fill in there. And I know Damo loves him, but I mean, I'm not overly convinced with him. I think he puts in all the effort you'd want, but has he got enough quality? I mean, he's not that young. I'd be surprised if he ends up turning out to be a really good footballer.
Well, Gooch, I mean, to be honest with you, he's, as you say, I've got a lot of feelings for the Gooch, man. I like that kid. I really do. You know what endeared him to me as well? It wasn't so much, I mean, he's industrious, which is something I really admire, and I think it's something that we should all, I think it's something we do like in Sunderland players, something you need really, a proper work ethic. And it's his aggression that I like. Well, not so much his aggression, because aggression, I mean, John Joe Shelby is aggressive, but he's a fucking wanker. It's not like that. It's like, he doesn't take shit. And he doesn't come across as a younger lad when he's on the pitch. When he started coming on for us towards the latter end of last season, he was put up against some really fierce players and proper men's men, you know what I mean? And he stood his ground, and I like that about him. But at the same time, he's all happy and he's smiley, and he seems to be quite an emotionally attached guy. It's like he seems like a nice lad, as well as being like clearly a workhorse on the pitch and clearly having no fear. And that's just a great attitude. That's what we want. Same with Watmore. You know, when he's got a great attitude to him, he's got this. He's got a ready smile, and at the same time, he puts bags of effort in. It's infectious, and it's something that you want to see, isn't it? It's definitely something you want to see in your reserve team.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I worry about his inconsistency, because as you are right, when he came in, he did have an impact, and he is the kind of player that he'll not go hiding. But he seems to have these games where, you know, he gives his all and he gets stuck in, but it very rarely turns out to have any end product. That's my concern. Like, I mean, it's all very well and good to have all the running in the world, but if we want the lad to play higher up the park, which we do, you know, we want to play him out wide or potentially as a number 10. I'm still not actually sure what his best position is. You know, is he best played more centrally? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, that could also be. It doesn't have to be an indictment of him. I mean, he seems quite comfortable just in and around the centre, and that's something that we lack as well. We're not very strong in that regard. We're not very strong in central midfield players pushing forward. Something we need, I think, and something that would suit the tactic that it seems Grayson's going with as well. The push up on the wings and cross in. Obviously, we're missing a target man, so the more the midfield can support that role, the better. I think he suits us. I think Gooch really suits. And there's something else interesting. Actually, talking about Gooch, there's you notice when Gooch and Honeyman are on the pitch together, there's a different type of energy to them. When they're on individually, you don't really see it so much, but when they're on together, when one of them gets brought on, they sort of link up naturally, and it's fantastic. It's obviously something that's been drilled into them. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, what was it, Stockdale? Robbie Stockdale has really been leading them for the last year or so, 2 years even. I'm not sure.
The kids have got great attitudes. The one thing that's kind of carried through ever since Kevin Ball was involved, really, is that we seem to produce absolutely brilliant people. You look at like how professional Jordan Henderson is, captain of Liverpool, captain of England, even. You know what I mean? This is a lad who, by all accounts, could have been released when he was a little bit younger, worked really hard, and obviously got himself to a position where he was able to make an impact at Sunderland. And I just think that you see it in all of them, regardless of ability. You see it in all of them. You see it in Lyndon Gooch. I was at Carlisle, and I've never seen him put in that amount of effort in a game. I wrote before that game on the site that I thought the lads who got a chance that night really had to give their all in order to impress Grayson. And when I watched the game, I kept that in mind. I kept in mind the likes of Reuter, who was man the match, Gooch, who scored and assisted one. I think the attitudes on that night were outstanding, but in particular, Gooch just ran himself into the ground. He was absolutely phenomenal. And then you look at Madja. There's another lad who, if he wasn't injured, he'd be playing now. He'd have started that first game certainly against Derby, because when you look at the fact that him and Vaughan both played pretty much the same amount of football in pre-season, yet he got 4 goals in 3 starts. He would have started that first game against Derby, I've got no doubt about it. It's just a shame he got injured. But I spoke to somebody who, I know a guy who works at the academy, just taught him about the kids and stuff, and he was telling us about Madja, and apparently he's a really well-liked lad around the place. All the staff get on with him. He's really friendly, dead talkative, very respectful of people. He came here from Manchester City very young, having been released. You've got to think that takes a lot of bollocks to move, hundreds of miles from where you know is home and uproot just to follow your dream. He's come up here, worked his socks off clearly, and earned his spot. And I just that for me, to go off on a tangent, but for me, that if we are really as skint as apparent, and we're in for this with the long haul, effectively as being financially unstable and having to maybe be more self-sufficient from the academy, it gives us heart that I know these players coming through have in terms of ability and effort and application, that they've got an abundance. They're nice people, and that for me comes from the steps put in place by Kevin Ball when he brought through that really successful youth team with Henderson and Waghorn and Jamie Chandler and Colback, and that team from that Youth Cup final was littered with lads who ended up having careers in the Football League, and it's in no part down to Kevin Ball's influence around the club. And you're seeing it now. These are lads who've that sort of structure put in place when Bally was more involved. The likes of you've got to admire that, and you've got to admire the fact that they know that this is their chance to make it at Sunderland. There's lads like Michael Ledger there, went out on loan to Hartlepool, is really he's trying to earn his spot here because he was sent out on loan to a Norwegian team, given a contract extension, out to Hartlepool now, who are struggling like mad. And I mean, that's the perfect time to be going into a club like that, especially although it's a conference and it's a little bit lower than the level I thought he might end up at. Ledger to go to Hartlepool and into a team who are struggling like mad, defensively struggling like mad. For him to go there, all he's got to do is play well a few times and he'll breeze it. He'll find his place in the team and he's there for the season. And I just think, if you can prove yourself elsewhere from this club, you're set up to make it. Jordan Pickford goes out and plays over 100 games professionally before he makes a debut here. Jordan Henson goes to Coventry and really earns his place. Colback even went out on loan to a number of clubs and came back and was a first team player. And I just think that's the next step with a lot of these players. Although Gooch and Honeyman are in the first team, I wouldn't have been adverse to maybe Lyndon Gooch going out on loan, if I'm honest. I think the only reason he's still here is because of the lack of money. I think he would have been ideal going to a League One club, somewhere where he could have really nailed down his future plan, go there and earn his place. Like when he went to Doncaster, he did really well. But I mean, a long spell somewhere to make sure that next season these lads are ready. Because I'm a little bit worried at the minute that maybe Honeyman and Gooch aren't perfectly ready, which is what we really need them to be because our squad's so small. But I don't know about the rest of you lads. I'm rambling on here about the kids, but I just think going forward, I think going forward, I just think it's such an important part of the club. We need to be, at least if we are asking, so one of our remits going forward every season, we have to bring through 2 kids from the academy. If that's the case, then I mean, look at the money we've just made on a goalkeeper, for God's sake. It just shows you if you give these lads a chance and they develop properly, will be fine. I don't know about the rest of you. I don't know if anyone else has got any other thoughts on that.
Off topic, kind of on topic, talking about our finances and that. Apparently, Mark Wilson's a free transfer. Which is actually good business, that, if it's free. I think
it's, I wonder when that came up, though. I can't even remember us talking about Wilson until today.
No, Short's rubbing his hands at a free transfer, right? Absolutely.
No, we were discussing. I think we were linked to him at the start, but I think everyone expected him to go to West Brom, so I don't think we took it that seriously. But there was a link earlier on, but it was like one of those 1 or 2 day things when not came of it. But I think it's a good signing, and on a free transfer, you can't really. I mean, Dillabodji out, you're saving on his wages, and you get Mark Wilson in, who's an experienced Premiership, or it'd be lower Premiership defender. I think it's good business. That
no, I think Wilson, like I said earlier, a very versatile player.
He's better than Dillabodji, that's first.
Well, that's who he's replacing, isn't he?
I'm better than Dillabodji.
He's got to be better than Dillabodji. Like, I think, he's worked at the Pulis before. He's been at Stoke. He's been in the Premier League. As you say, he's versatile. He's got experience on international as well. On paper, he should be a good signing, but you just never know when it comes to Sunderland here. It's hard to predict.
How can we get some of this money though, lads? That you look, I've got Sky Sports News on here in the background, and you look at some of the money getting chucked around, and you just think, where the fuck did it all go wrong? How are we not involved in any of this money? Like, it's absolutely mental. I mean,
it is sickening. Like,
it is like $92 million for Lamar, like £92 million for a player who's had one good season,
and we can't even get a fee for Jeremy Lenz.
No, it's absolutely mental. And like, you've got 200 million for Neymar, and you've got 70 million was mooted for Sanchez earlier today. Like, I just cannot believe that we've gone so wrong. That they're not involved at all. I mean, it's slightly heartwarming to see that the Mags are just as fucked. Like, I mean, they must be absolutely fuming. Like, they're in dire need of transfers. Like, I think
weren't they touting Colback to us earlier in the day though?
Oh, my heart dropped.
No,
my stomach sunk
That would have been the ultimate insult if he'd have rocked up with a scarf above his head at the academy. Like that would have been a real kick in the teeth. That like.
It's just been a hashtag Sunderland that.
It would be the most Sunderland thing ever if Jack Colback made his glorious return to Sunderland.
What if we did one of those mad kind of Twitter videos to announce him as well? Like, where like he was like, I don't know, I can't remember.
One of those football manager themed videos where you get
and he just
shot of his history.
He just rocks up and it's like, ooh, like it's who's it going to be? And it's like you start discovering
it's the modern day Lee Clark.
It's fucking Colback. Oh no, that would have been shite.
But we need a left back, so
true.
No, that's memories of Palace away. That it's horrible.
Nah,
like
it just would have been. Do you not reckon it would have been fun seeing how we actually approach? Like I don't for 1 minute want Colback back. Do you not think it would have been fun just seeing how he would have approached it, especially in the media?
It would have been fun seeing how the fucking fans approached it. Christ. Like how? I mean, how does Martin Bain sell that to the fans? How does Simon Grayson sell that to the fans? Oh, he's a good lad. He might have done some things in the past, but he's here to play football now. I agree.
I don't even understand them offering him to Borough though. Like, where would he even fit in their team?
He wouldn't get in the side, would he? I mean, he's not that good. Let's face it. Like when he left us, it was if he hadn't have come up through the youth academy and it hadn't have been Newcastle, I don't think people would have been too bothered. Like he scored on the last day or one of the last games of the season against West Brom in that run, but it was like a deflected, stupid goal, wasn't it? Like he was never like massily great Shakespeare, wasn't he? I remember him scoring the equaliser at Cardiff away, but even that was like a deflected shot, wasn't it?
Colback for me was a crab. That's all he was. Really,
jobber. Like he was a jobber.
He suited Poyer's team, I suppose, in a way because he liked to hold the ball and go sideways. But we were. I don't know, that whole situation just really riled me up to the point where I'm still bitter about it now. I think the bitterness of Lee Clark went over the years, but like Colback, I just can't get over what he did to us. Like,
I fucking hate Colback.
He played us wrong. He played us off the mags, though. He played us off the mags, and then when he realised that West Ham wanted him, West Ham tried to buy him out of the contract he'd signed with Newcastle, if you remember, before the season started, and then he had to go back with his tail between his legs there. And then he came out afterwards saying how it was a boyhood dream to go to Newcastle and how it was the best move for his career and that he didn't want to be fighting relegation anymore. And yeah, well, look what happened to him. But when I read that story about him not getting a squad number or not being part of the 25-man squad, sorry, I mean, I was over the moon when I read that. Like, just
karma's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just, do you not think it's amazing that at a time when Newcastle are just as pretty much as skint as us and can't really afford to increase their squad by any significant amount, that Colback's like being cast aside.
I mean, people, like the mags wax lyrical about Rafa the Gaffer and how good he is. I don't really rate him that highly, but he must be a decent judge of a player given his limited success around Europe over the years. And he deems Colback completely surplus to requirements.
I don't.
That's a damning indictment of Colback's.
While we're on about Newcastle, this myth about Rafa Benitez, was anybody reading the crap on Twitter today about? I think it was Mark Douglas from the Chronicle talking about this. He was at some
my best
friggin' elite coaches event, and Rafa was invited. And it was like they're making a big deal. Like, oh, this is how great he is. Look at him, he's at this elite coaches course. Whatever, man. So what? At the end of the day, it's going tits up for them, and I can't wait till it actually goes properly tits up and he leaves. I
don't care what anybody says. That Joselu, he might have scored the other day, but he is not enough to keep them in the Premier League.
Fuck the Mags.
No ways.
Yeah, Graham.
Fuck the Mags.
I don't care. I don't.
Fuck the Mags, Graham.
Fuck them. Fuck them. Hate them.
Exactly.
Don't care about them in any way, shape, size, or form.
Exactly.
Fuck them, man. Fuck them. Don't care who plays for them.
All right,
there isn't enough mag hatred on this podcast.
Nowhere near enough. No,
I thank Graham for bringing that back.
I wanted to say it.
I'm just reading the Twitter timelines. McCormack's Leeds bound, apparently.
Oh, there we go.
Brilliant.
So yeah,
it's like truly no striker.
Do you imagine if he went there though? Apparently Bruce said that he didn't want to send him to us because we're a rival. Does he not consider Leeds a rival?
And he hates us. Let's face it. I think that's
another fucking mag as well.
He doesn't like us.
It's not so much he doesn't like us.
Your dad's had a few, isn't he?
I've had 2 beers and all of a sudden I'm
He's a Sunderland ultra.
Human.
I wish.
Steve Bruce was never going to do us any favours, was he? Never. I think he was never going to do Ellis Short any favours. I think that's the whole point. I don't think he gives a fuck about rival, as you say. Like, and he clearly doesn't rate McCormack enough to think that he's going to score against him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be loaning him out in the first place. So he doesn't rate him, clearly, but he just wants his wages off the books because he can't sell him. I don't think he's scared of him.
Do you know
I don't think he should be.
Sorry, lads. It's a weird situation with Villa, though. Like, that club they need to get promoted this season.
Yeah.
They need to. Like, I just find it strange that they wouldn't try and get him off the books, even to us, if that's the case. Yeah. I mean, we don't know the truth, but you look at the fact they haven't really been able to spend any money because of they're pretty much at the cusp of their limits when it comes to financial fair play. And wage-wise, they clearly aren't. That's why they've been able to bring in like people like John Terry. I just find it mental that they wouldn't try and shift him, at least maybe even to us when the option's there, because he could still be there. We're less than an hour from the window shutting. I mean, there's nothing to say that he's going anywhere, going to end up anywhere. And he must have been paid a fortune to go there last year. Like, what was he, Fulham's captain, like top scorer in the Championship?
Funny story about John Terry. Well, it might be funny. You can judge whether it's funny or not. I used to live in Cobham, right next to the training ground. I lived there for about 5-6 years, and I saw a lot of Chelsea players. Well, I saw a lot of players in general, to be honest. They all go there. But where I was living, it was above a shop, and we had this private car park, and it had a little chain across it. And we were the only residents above this shop. It was M&Co. You remember that? The clothes shop, M&Co. It's one of those. And we were living in a flat above it. We were the only ones there. We were the only ones with a key, apart from the owner of M&Co, or the store manager. So when she went at about 6-7 o'clock at night, that was it. We were the only one with a key. Anyway, I had a few drinks. Can't remember what I was doing or why. I was definitely drinking. I remember that much. And come to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning anyway, after everything's been locked up and I'm by myself and I've had a fucking huge night out, I'm outside having a smoke and I can hear this rattling of the chain downstairs. And I'm just like, and someone going like, fuck's sake. So what's that going on downstairs? So pop down there and it's John Terry. And he's stuck in my car park. He's managed to lock himself in my car park. But the really interesting thing is that when the car park was locked, when the chain got locked originally, no one knew that he was in there. So he's left his Jeep or something like that, or his Range Rover in there. And yeah, he's come to I've come down. I'm like, what are you doing there, man? I didn't even really realise who it was. And he said in the most stupid, docile voice, just like, oh, sorry, mate, I didn't realise it was private. And he's pissed out of his head. You know what I mean? And he's trying to get in his car to fucking drive home. And he did. I didn't take the initiative. I should have seized the initiative and gone, right, taken some pictures and said, you know what, John, I'm going to send these to everybody and let them know that you're drunk driving unless you give me 10 grand. I should have done that. But I didn't. I was just like, all right, no worries, John Terry. Essentially, just opened the thing and let him out. And he drove out in his fuking Range Rover.
Well, the listeners have learned something today.
True story. But yeah, carry on. What were you saying, Ev? I've forgotten.
I wasn't even saying much. Nah, I'm just looking through the comments on the YouTube because that's actually blown up. There's like hundreds of people watching us. I can't believe this.
Oh yeah, cheers for watching this.
Yeah. There's the people are kicking off in the comments there. Just looking through. There's a guy called Chris Smith asking, "Would you take Crouch?" Lol. I'll remove the lol, but would you take Crouch from Stoke?
No.
I take anyone up front of them.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that. I'd take any striker. If we've been told we've not got anyone coming in, then yeah, I'd take him in that regard.
Do you not reckon it's just scrambling around for names to see which target men are available? Like, I actually probably would take Connor Wickham at this stage because
that was somebody.
But yeah, can we afford his hair gel though?
No, probably not anymore. Like, and he's muscle food.
Quite expensive. His muscle. I muscle food. That's it. Is there any? Like, because I remember last year when like we were on about getting a striker and Achua fell through and all that, and people were looking at like free transfers and like I was just thinking before, is there anyone like that's on a free that we could realistically bring in?
What, striker wise?
Aye.
Nah. Well, you've got to think as well. Like at this stage, anybody who's fit and decent being picked up.
Aye.
Like that's like I don't think there's anybody really available who would one come to be ready to play. Which remember when we signed Anichebe right at the end of last year's summer transfer window, and I don't think he kicked the ball in November or something, did he? And then even then he was pretty much unfit for the rest of the season. Probably a knock-on effect for him not having a pre-season, and the fact he was a massive crock.
Apparently diabetes is available on a free transfer. I might have pronounced that wrong. But apparently,
it's an interesting one. Someone's come up the Mackham lad. You have one transfer left. Who do you buy? Any budget, but again, be realistic.
Messi.
Any budget.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Does it? Any budget, but be realistic.
You have one transfer left. Who do you buy?
Let's give it a realistic budget. We'd have what maximum we would be able to pull out is 5 million.
Maybe 5 million quid. Yeah. A few people. I'm just reading the comments again here. A few people are suggesting Ricky Lambert's available for free. Target man.
Interesting.
But in terms of transfers left, I would make. Well, we need a striker. I would pay whatever Preston one for Hugo personally. But I think, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I think now, he started the season well, he's got like 3-4 goals already, so his price has skyrocketed already. But I mean, we were being quoted, the fee touted in the summer was £2 to £3 million. Like, can you imagine if we'd just bit with tongue and maybe paid 4 or 5 for him? Because we would have probably got him. I wouldn't. There's another one, Jordan Ramsey suggesting Glenn Murray on loan from Brighton because he's not playing much. He scored for fun last season, didn't he?
Someone's mentioned Undoy.
Is it bad that Glenn Murray would excite me? Like that would really get.
That
would really that would really excite us. Like,
some people though they forget like
it's a good player.
Not just that though. You look at the years we've been promoted. Last time we were in the Championship, we had like David Connolly. We had before that players like Kevin Kyle, like
Marcus Stewart.
Yeah, a dependable Championship striker is good regardless. Like Glenn Murray, you wouldn't take him in a Premier League team, but he just scored 20 odd goals in the Championship. Like someone like that has real value in that division. I'm just looking at a couple. Someone suggested Aruna Kone. I think Kone is probably. I think he's found a club, and I was reading he's went to a Turkish team. I think.
He has. Someone's mentioned fucking David and Gog. Jesus Christ, that's like
still going.
We were linked with David and Gog when we sold Henderson. He was supposed to be part of it. He was supposed to be the make weight, like a part of the deal. And I said at the time, like, no way on earth is that a good signing for us. And he's done fuck all since. So if we sign him now, that might be me done. I think I might go down south and boil my head somewhere or something like that. I don't think I can deal with David and Gog at the stadium alive.
I'm getting a bit annoyed. You've had loads of people saying like stupid suggestions, which I like, and then someone's been dead serious and gone Connor Wickham, and I'm just like, I didn't want a serious one. I want daft ones.
On a completely unrelated note, my mate Ben Gillespie's just given us a message, and he says "fuck the Mags," which is lovely.
Good on that man.
Pizarro on a free, Claudio Pizarro.
I'd take him over. He's got like footballing intelligence about him. He has.
Isn't he about 90 though?
Yeah, he'd boss this league. He'd be like, I don't know. He'd be like an upgrade on Glenn Murray, wouldn't he?
Someone said Patrice and Bomber. It's actually Patrick, but I would probably say no.
They're not here for a fucking English lesson.
Maybe you're the last person giving out English lessons. Like, how are you?
Hey.
Actually, is it an English lesson? His name's Patrick and Bomber. I don't know. I'm just saying. Carlton Cole. There's one. Carlton Cole. That's who we need to come.
Nah.
Now, I mean, being serious though, how are we actually going to survive without a striker? I know it's been said, we're waiting for Watmore. Obviously, that's not a valid strategy.
Hopefully, Josh Magic.
No, again, that's been mentioned as well. Again, he's not good enough. I think Gav's mentioned on several occasions that he really isn't the finished article at all.
He's not. Well, you can't expect that of an 18-year-old kid. Like,
no, I'm not saying you've snagged him off. I'm just saying, but you'd agree that you can't bring him up to this stage right now.
No,
hopefully he can pitch in, but he's not the answer, is he?
Do you know what would be nice? It would be nice if we actually. I think any team needs a focal point. Spine the team has to be right. You need to have a centre forward you can rely on. You need to have your 2 centre midfield players who you can rely on. And you need to have a centre half pair that you can rely on. Then everything else fits around it. Like when you look at it, you think, although we haven't kept a clean sheet, if we do see the rest of the evening out and keep Lam and Kone, then great. Him and Browning will do well till at least January. Then you look at the centre mid pair and Catmull and Ndong. But I don't think you'll find a better pairing of centre mids in this league. Certainly not in terms of pedigree and variability of what they can actually bring to your team. And then you look up front, we're toothless. Like grabbing, I do think will be a good signing, but I just think a statement signing up front would have made a hell of a difference to this team. Like when Fulham went down and they stripped their team bare and filled it full of kids and stuff. They signed McCormack, and McCormack was like the talisman. They gave him the captaincy, and he scored for fun, even when they struggled that season and nearly got relegated. You just think, like, even though we've not got that much to spend, it should have been a priority. Signing a goal scorer, signing somebody who you know can get goals at this level, like Graben may well turn out to be that player. I feel a little bit icky about the fact that we don't have a striker. I don't know about you guys, but I think the core of your team, if it's not correct and your core of your team's not solid, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to fail. We need players we can depend upon in pretty much all the way down the spine of our team.
I think when we did well under Allardyce, the spine was perfect, and I think a lot of it was down to that. Like, he totally understood like the spine of the team, the defense, like Kabul and Kone, and I think everyone kind of looked at Kone because he was one that came in. That's when we got better. But like the spine of the team was great. I miss Kabul, but like I think the spine.
No,
of the
I do. That's why I mentioned it. Like, who'd have thought that when Kabul left, that was like the beginning of the destabilization of whatever fragile squad we had in place. Do you know what I mean? We've really gone downhill since then.
No, I think Kabul was because I was at Bournemouth, like when we got beat 2-0, and he was absolutely rotten and he got sent off. So I always had like this kind of opinion of Kabul was crap, and then from like February onwards, he did really, really well. But I thought that was a lot to do with the partnership with Kone being good. But you look back and it was realistically, it was probably Kabul kind of ushering Kone through games. Whether it's his attitude, I don't know. That's another point. How do we all feel about Kone staying? I didn't expect that.
No, I mean, Kone, is he staying? I suppose there's still time to go. We haven't really. We've moved away.
I think he's staying. Like, do you not reckon
I'd be happy.
Yeah. Do you not reckon it's more to do with the fact that Palace went for other targets? Like, have Palace signed Sacco?
I think so. I think it's pretty much confirmed. Or was it a loan of 30 million they paid for him?
A lot when it was 20 odd million quid. But it's clear that Kone was a Sacco alternative to them money. You've got to think in it, like, we probably don't hear the half of it. Like, if like I don't know, say a team like Palace, when they've got a lot of money, say they want a big athletic centre half, then Sacco's maybe the number one target, but they've probably got 3 or 4 that they've sounded out just in case. And that's probably more than likely what happened with Kone. I think his reputation has been damaged big style by his own actions, really. I mean, you've got to think, if we are demanding top dollar for him, you've got to bear in mind, like, Everton offered us a lot of money, not that long ago for him. And you've got to think, if teams are approaching us and asking what we want, we're probably going to be asking for more than he's worth at this minute. And that's going to put people off immediately. And then you look on top of that, the fact he's been part of a centre-half pairing that hasn't kept a clean sheet this season. We just got relegated bottom of the league and shit goals for fun every week with him at the heart of the defence. Like, who's going to make him the number one target? He's not that impressive. You know what I mean? So I think for the fee that he'd probably command, and you look at how silly the money's been this season, like players like Nathan Ake going for 20 million and 18 million for a Spurs backup centre-half and Vimmer. You've just got to think, like, we will have been asking for money like that for him. And I don't think we'll have been too bothered about selling him because we know we couldn't replace him. Like, how do you replace Lamine Kone? As frustrating as he can be, and, he has obviously got flaws. How do you replace a player like that for the money we would be willing to spend? I don't think you can. Like, Elphick for £1 million would be a backup centre-half. He wouldn't be a Kone alternative.
I don't agree, because, I mean, we've re-signed John O'Shea, right? We've got an abundance of centre-backs, actually, at the moment. Like, well, we had Djilabodji until we let Djilabodji go on one. But I disagree in the sense that I don't think Kone would have commanded a massive fee, to be honest with you. I think when they said everyone's up for sale, do you think it would get to the point where they're just sitting there and saying, oh, well, yeah, you could take everyone, but Kone's got to go for 15 million or something like that? I don't think we would have asked for anywhere near that much. And I think there are plenty of clubs, that would pay, like, 8 million, which I think is a more reasonable asking price. I think probably what we'd have gone for. I don't know what we'd have spent it on. Presumably Short would have taken it straight to the bank and given it to his debtor. I don't know. That seems to be the case. That's what we're told, anyway.
I don't know, mate. I think when you look at the fees being thrown around for players, there's maybe a reason we haven't sold in Dong or Kone, because we've probably asked for a little bit too much. I do think that. I think we've realised we can't replace those players with what we would be able to outlay. Like, even if you got 15 million for Lamine Kone, how much would be available to Grayson to replace him?
I agree.
You know, and they may be looking at it and going, well, clubs are going. The winter transfer window is a desperate market. It's when teams panic. Like, teams who are struggling in the Premier League who need defenders will pay more than what Kone's worth in January. I think we've looked at that and went, why do we need to sell him now? We can't replace him. Hold him to his deal and keep him on the books till January. January comes around when teams are more desperate, and Kone might be worth a little bit more money. Let's not forget that this ownership of the club, that the people running the show at the minute are just stripping us bare, and they're going to want as much as they can. Like, what's a couple of months? It's September nearly now, and we're on about January. Like, wait till January, and you might make a considerable amount more on these players. I know it's jumping ahead a bit, but I'm more worried about what's going to happen in January, because you've got to assume the budget's going to be slim then, but we'll be more willing to let players go when we know how the season's going to pan out. Like, if we're sitting mid-table and they're quite happy with the amount of central midfielders we've got, and the club comes along for Ndong and offers a decent fee, we aren't going to stop at that. We're going to let them go.
You're talking about money and stuff like that as well, like money coming in and stuff, and you're talking about January at the same time. If you rewind back, like, I remember when we sold Van Aanholt for 14, and people thought, oh, there's going to be a bit of money there, but I think we only paid, like, what was it, 7 for Oviedo and fucking Gibson. So then you've got, like, another 7 million from that as well. Where's that money gone?
Well, I mean, hang on. Before I broach with you, before I answer that, there was a comment on the YouTube thing that made me take a double glance. First of all, we've got whose idea was it to re-sign O'Shea. I think there are multiple reasons for that. But before that, why did we pay the Alvarez fee and not get the player? That was because he played a certain amount of games for us. And that was why we paid the Alvarez fee, wasn't it? It was a case of he played 20-odd games or 28 games. I can't even remember. That's just a number I'm pulling out of the hat for some reason. He played a certain amount of games for us, and it guaranteed a clause in his contract.
That whole situation is just alien to me. I think it's probably far more complex. It's far more complex.
And then it was very,
I think it's probably far more complex than what we...
It was ruled. That was the point in the end. It was ruled by a court. Well, court? It would be like an FA.
To be honest, I don't even know what came of that. All the information...
Well, it was that we owed them money, wasn't it? We owed them 7.5 million euros in the end.
It was all just stuff that we were reading in the Italian press. Nothing came out over here. It was kept very tightly, you know. But a lot of people seem to be attributing the fact we can't spend this summer to that, because we've had to pay a lot of money out.
Well, there was word that we hadn't even paid for Barini as of last transfer window.
Yeah, but
we hadn't paid for him, and we sold.
Well, we talking about fees for players, like 80 million on this player, but the deals are far more structured than that. Like, they pay so much up front, they pay this much in add-ons and things like that. You know what I mean? The deals are so structured. I think that's actually how we've backed ourselves into a corner. We are where we are. Like, so it's like paying for something on tick, and it's like, here
we go. Sorry, I've got a button. Yeah, it was because the Alvarez clause was because we stayed up.
Yeah,
sorry, that
was all right. Yeah. But
thanks, guys. Keep it up. Keep correcting us. We need it. We need you.
It's like paying for something on tick, and it's like or like a payday loan. I think I saw a great analogy. It was like taking out a payday loan on a packet of crisps. That's how we've that's how a lot of our business has been structured with Sunderland. We're talking about like players like Gilabodji, 8 million quid. Well, we didn't even pay 8 million quid for him. And Dong was announced as a club record fee for £13 million, but we paid £1 million up front. Like, a lot of that was to make the club look like they were spending money to appease fan expectations, I think, personally. So we're looking at it now, and we're at a stage where we're probably still paying for players that left us ages ago. And it's only worsened in my eyes when you're loaning players out who you paid a lot of money for. Like, it would be nice. It would be, in Kazri's instance, if he does well for Rennes, we might get a little bit of money from next year. Great. But like, Gilabodji's club that he's just went to actually announced on their website that there's no agreed fee up front. So they're under no obligation to sign him. God knows how much of his wages we're paying. We've probably had to make that deal look very good in order to get rid of him. I know the Dijon president said we've been trying to chase him for years. Like, he made a big deal out of Gilabodji because he said that he wanted him years ago and he wasn't able to get him. But I don't know. I think we've probably offered him a round and had to make that look very good in order to get rid of him. Like, how many times have we said it? Like, who's going to take him? I'm surprised somebody actually did. And you've got to think it's a lot of money we paid out over a long time. And if Chilabodji leaves next year for a small fee, we'll still be paying for him for a couple of years. Like that's what's happened here. This has happened for too long now, and it's got the stage where like it's built up that much, the debt's that swelling that much that it's having a knock-on effect to the point where now we don't have a lot of money, we don't have anything to spend by all accounts, and it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to get your head round. But it's just...
You've got to laugh before you cry, haven't you? I suppose that's the way to go. I know what you mean, though. It is quite depressing, and it's as you say, it's all like a culmination of things. Do you know what I mean? It's a culmination of bad management from every angle, really, and the bad luck as well. I mean, things could have gone really well. You never know. Everything might have been fantastic, but unfortunately, it's not. It doesn't all work out like that. I mean, particularly when you're talking about fees not paid. That is, as you say, it's dodgy ground, isn't it? For us to even cover, because I mean, we ask for transparency. It's something that you demand from your club, isn't it? Especially when you're in dire straits like this, when you're in dark times. Really want some transparency, just so we know what's going on. We actually know what's happening with the club, because it means so much to so many people. It's very important that we have some sort of indicator of how things are going. And if you were to look purely at the results on the pitch, then it would be very bad. You know what I mean? You'd be very depressed. But yeah, it's good to have transparency, and you could argue in some ways that the club has been transparent. They've certainly made an effort to be more transparent. We know this. They've been talking about what's going on. Then again, you've got that question of have they been not overly transparent, but have they been overly forceful? I mean, it's interesting things like publishing transfer rumours on the club site. That was interesting, wasn't it? Particularly when you talk. I mean, how many of those rumours came true? Did any of them come true? The ones that the Sunderland
they weren't really rumours. They were like they were infringing on kind of like stuff that the fan sites do, I guess, in a way, like commenting on stuff that's appeared in the press and that. I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me. I think the club website has its place, and it's not to comment on rumours and stuff. It's to confirm news, and like what they're doing is fueling speculation there on players that might not arrive, and it doesn't help anyone really, does it? Like I just didn't understand that. It didn't benefit anybody, like all that stuff. But the club website, the guys who run it do a good job, and I feel sorry for them at times. I think that they've, especially last year, had a very tough job on their hands trying to be positive about everything when nothing was there to be positive about, and being told every day how shit everything is. It must be I don't know, must be demoralising, really. I guess trying to do your job and just you can't because the team on the pitch is so shit. But you know, from the meeting we had with the club, if you remember, Damian, when we were there, they spoke about having all of these grand ideas about nice things they like to do on the social media channels and the website, and they just weren't able to do it for whatever reason because of the way that the season had gone effectively. But yeah, someone's made a comment there on YouTube, clickbait. I suppose in a way the club website's got to justify what it's doing, hasn't it? And they've got to bring people to the site. But I don't think they struggle for clicks. Like people see them as the main source of information, don't they? And obviously look to the club website whenever like anything gets announced. I'm just going off the YouTube comments here. Looking further up, a guy called Max Hannigan. The club's PR has been atrocious for ages. The club Twitter account was like a troll for the last 6 months, and you do get that impression, don't you? Like people struggle with some of the stuff they put out because the
share given.
Well, that was a big thing. Like that, it wasn't not necessarily a big thing, but just like people were like, "What you doing?" Like
you can tell it's just come off like it's not any criticism of the lads running the Twitter because it's just come off a database.
Yeah, something like that has. They do that every day, don't they?
But they're just doing the job, and I'm not going to call them like all the names under the sun for that, but just a bit of due diligence, you know what I mean? Just have a bit of a research on it. Like everybody in the footballing world knows that Shea Given played for Newcastle for 10 years or whatever.
I suppose in a way as well, like if you speak to anybody who watched Given play for Sunderland, they've only got fond memories of him. Like although he was a mag, he played for Newcastle for years and years and years. He done good by Sunderland. Like, he came in at a time when we were facing relegation, and Peter Reid kept us up with games left to run. Like, people actually respect him. Say it's a shame that he never came here and he ended up at Newcastle.
No,
but
Given came in when we won the league. He came in the January time.
I'm a mile off.
Won the league.
It was a season afterwards, because it was. I'll take you back to a story. No, I won't. It was 95, 96 when we won. He came in the January as an 18-year-old kid, and I think he came in and for about 16 games, and he kept like 10 clean sheets or something. He broke the record for it, because he was immense for us in that period. I remember proper loving him as a kid, but he got injured against Barnsley, I think. And then we brought Chamberlain back in, but no, he actually helped us win the league. I think we were like 5th or something in January, and by the time he went back to Blackburn because he was injured, I think we were top by that point and pretty much nailed on champions, I think. History lesson there for you lads, if anyone was wondering.
Aye, but people do like respect Shea Given, don't they? I know we're going off.
I respect
there is no off topic.
What he did for the club, and he's an international quality goalkeeper, and I remember thinking when he was at Newcastle, he was a extremely good player, and when he went to Man City, he didn't disgrace himself. But I don't know, we're just going to start. He played for Sunderland for a season. You know what I mean? We're wishing him happy birthday on Twitter. It might be kind of indicative in the modern game and the social media presence and stuff like that. But I think
something's been said. Actually, someone called Jamie Stanley said something here that I completely agree with. Poor social media wouldn't be too big a deal, and I think if we were doing well, but with the mess the club's in, they have to get the basics right.
I agree with that.
Builds up angst among supporters. That's right. You expect just a small amount of professionalism.
If we were winning every week, then that would have got completely.
Things like that do make you wonder. It's all the little things, isn't it? It's the details that make you step back and go, I'm not quite comfortable here.
Lads, just to jump in, I'm just reading something from the Mirror there, alleging that we've actually beat West Brom to the signing of Mark Wilson. Apparently they want them to. Yeah.
Apparently they didn't know about it. That's how we did them.
Yeah.
But he was there last year on loan, but he didn't play much. I find that a bit strange. But apparently, that's in the Mirror. That he had offers from West Brom as well. It says Tony Pulis has claimed to be a big admirer of the 29-year-old. But set to tie up a cut-price deal for the versatile fullback.
Is he only 29? I thought he was older than that, actually. That's not a bad signing, because that's kind of... It's not his
my worry with him is he just hasn't played much. Like, you signed a player who's literally not kicked the ball for maybe over a year.
I didn't realise he hadn't played for Bournemouth. I remember him going to Bournemouth last summer from Stoke, thinking he'd be a decent signing, but I didn't realise he hadn't played. But I suppose Bournemouth have like a set team, though, don't they? Like, they add very few to it. It's like 1 or 2 players that actually get in the team and have to work to get in the team. I mean, even look at Defoe. Like, their back four and moving forward always seems to have relatively stayed the same. I mean, they've still got like Simon Francis, I think, at right back, haven't they? And like Charlie Daniels on the left-hand side. So I don't think they necessarily changed their team that much.
Can I just ask as well that everyone listening on YouTube, can you just, if you want to fire any questions at us, just leave those in the comments box, because I know we're getting off topic sometimes and running on, but we do want to hear from you and see what you guys want to say as well.
Yeah, so hit us up. Let us know.
Those at us.
Do let us know. Ask us some questions. I mean, who are we? Who are we but mere Sunderland fans? Just like you. We were once just like you. Sorry, I've had a bit to drink. But someone did point out a while ago, actually, and that was so much of I had to drink that I've forgotten to mention it until now. But someone did point out that it was such and such time until the end of the window. It's now 23 minutes until the end of the transfer window. And technically speaking, we have hired nobody.
That's
I think it's true. It hasn't been announced by the club yet. I mean, we've heard pretty much confirmation about Wilson.
McManaman was seen going into the training ground. There was a video on Sky of him going into the training ground.
So it's fair to say that the group that we were given to work with, McManaman, Williams, Wilson, that's all we're going to bring in. How do we feel about that now?
We need a striker.
Yes, but apparently we're not going to get one. So let's work with what we've got right. Just for a moment.
I don't think we can. I don't think we can. Like, I genuinely think it's the most stupid thing ever not to have a centre forward. We needed a centre forward. It was the one thing that we needed.
But we signed James Bond.
No.
I suppose though, like yeah, I mentioned I spoke earlier about the need for a striker and it being a priority, but the oppositions we need to strengthen still. So there's that.
It's the argument, isn't it, that everybody was, well, most people are quite happy with Vaughan if he came and was going to be a squad player. And now we are 20 minutes away from the deadline shutting and it looks like he's going to be first choice for the whole of the season, or at least till January. I think that's quite concerning.
Yeah, maybe. Well, Grayson seems like he has a lot of faith in the players he buys. Like he could have quite easily just dropped Jason Steele for that Derby game, and he didn't. He stuck by him until the last match, essentially.
He dropped him eventually, though, didn't he?
Actually,
but I mean, Reiter made it difficult for him. Like he couldn't not play against Barnsley. I know he didn't play great against Barnsley, but he made it difficult for Grayson, didn't he? And so, and every man and his dog was calling for Reiter to start against Derby, and he didn't. He stuck by him, and I've just got to think that maybe he admires Vaughan's work rate and he admires the effort he puts in. Apparently, a very decent person. I don't know. Maybe he's happy just to stick by and give him his chance, and maybe
unworthy.
Maybe he hopes that he's going to come good. He's got to. He's got to have
unworthy of the Photoshop effort that Gav put into him.
I know.
Put him on the head of Agent 47 from Hitman. That was fantastic. It looked fantastic, and it was a beacon, and nothing came of it. Unfortunately, that was a shame. We were hoping. I mean, we were told that he was quite accurate, weren't we? We were told that he was on target. Maybe it's. Don't get me wrong. Players have gone through longer dry spells, haven't they? Certainly for Sunderland. I mean, it is entirely possible, or maybe he's being played out of position. Maybe he's just not confident enough. I mean, the manager's probably not 100% confident, to be honest with you. We expect a lot of managers. We say, oh, well, because they've got that. I mean, the actual badges, then they don't require much to obtain the badges. So it's not with regards to that. All of your experience of being a manager comes from being in football. So it's really about you as a person, isn't it? So it's not an easy game either way. There's no set formula. You're either good with people or you aren't. I think that's the issue. It's not an issue. I don't think it's an issue necessarily. But it was interesting when you look at Simon Grayson from a psychological point of view. Let's say when you look at him, and he's quite reserved, and not reserved in a bad way, in a negative way. Not in so much that he's not approachable or anything like that. But he thinks about what he says before he says it. And a lot of people don't do that, particularly in football. A lot of people are very just out with their opinion, or they just outright lie, or they deliberately create a mask or something like that. But he doesn't do that. You can tell that he thinks it, he plans ahead. So it's not through any negligence of his or any kind of inability in any kind of intellectual or social capacity that inhibits him from interacting with players to the point where he can get the best out of them. I'm talking about players as humans, you know what I mean? So I don't think that's any kind of issue for him. I don't think that's really an issue for our managers. I think that's just I don't know. I'm losing track of what I'm saying, but the point is, he's capable, and so is the squad that we've got. That's something that annoys me, is that players like Vaughan, they're capable of making the decision to come to a club like Sunderland. Managers like Simon Grayson, he's capable of making the right decision, of weighing up all of his options and going into it. And it just concerns me that they're out of water now. Do you know what I mean? It concerns me that Vaughan hasn't started well in what was really a good opportunity, or a great opportunity for him to do so. It concerns me that Simon Grayson, he hasn't started poorly, but he hasn't started well either. It concerns me. It doesn't seem like they were 100% prepared for it.
No.
You know, and everyone who comes into the club seems to be prepared for it. Yeah, I've spoken to Ellis Shaw and I've spoken to Martin Bain, and they've assured me that I'll get this, and this, and I'm confident we can do this. And then within a few months, the wheels seem to come off.
Yeah, no, you are right. It's concerning, like, and it happens time and time again to a point where, I mean, it doesn't. You can recognise what Grayson's trying to do. You can sort of, to an extent, recognise some of what Bain's been brought in to do, and like you can his role at the club is defined, and he doesn't want to. He's not going to impress anybody by doing it. But I mean, like, he's here for a reason. But then you think, and you look at it and you go, like, none of this is changing until the owner goes. Like, there's none of it is changing until Ellis Shaw goes. This doesn't get better from here. This only gets worse. This only gets worse and worse and worse and worse until he gets the club into a shape ready to sell, which is where we're at. Like, there's a reason we're not spending money. There's a reason people are being made redundant. There's a reason that we're selling players lower than what we paid for them. There's a reason we're deep-loading the wage bill. There's a reason 12 players were released in the summer or whatever it was. You know, there's a reason all of this is happening, and it's not to get the club back on a good financial footing. It's to get Ellis Short's business back on a good financial footing, so that when he tries to sell it, it looks a lot better. Someone made a great analogy about selling a house on. I think it was on the ethics column on the website this week. He said, "I've sold 2 houses in a flat in my life, and each time the estate agents told us to tart it up a bit, give this a little bit like a paint, do this, that, and the other, to make the place look nicer. So when I try to sell it, people want to buy it." And you can apply that kind of logic to what they're doing now with Sunderland. What they're doing is they're making the books look a lot better. So when they try to sell it, it goes a lot quicker and it goes a lot smoother. And how long that takes could be between 6 months and a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years. We don't know. What we do know is that for the length of time he is still here, this doesn't get better. This financial situation improves. Certainly, we'll maybe look a lot better on the books, but I mean, on the pitch, we struggle. We don't have the capability to compete in a league that we should have the capability to compete in. It's changed since the last time we were here, of course, but we're struggling off the pitch, and it's going to undoubtedly have an impact on it. It can't not.
No, absolutely.
I think if we just got more Britishness, it would fix it. That's my thought. Actually, you know what? If you think about it as well, I think at least 8 of those players, if the medicals are passed, are all British as well, aren't they? Actually, hilariously enough, me making that comment, I'm sure most of our players have been British that we brought in this summer. There's only been Reuter that's foreign, I think.
It's interesting what Moy said when he mentioned the Britishness, when he was talking about building a core for the future. And it was like Gilabodji was in there, and now he's gone. It's like 8 months later. It's just like, I really want to build a long-term plan, and that's why I'm buying these players. And nonsense.
Keith Downey says Johnny Williams drove 8 hours to get Sunderland.
Probably got caught speeding on our bastard luck.
It would be our luck that he'd get caught in traffic, wouldn't it? And he wouldn't end up there.
Of course. And it will Milton Nunes instead.
Max Hannigan, we could do a Jan and sell Coney on Dong to China tomorrow. That's a worry, like. Remember that?
Oh, it's true, that. Aye, that's a good point, that. Who said that? You just proper ruined my buzz. I thought that would be done.
Max Hannigan.
Max, fucking done it, will you?
Max Power. Sorry.
Stop being realistic in that.
We're going to be up late. Kirchhoff and Chamak, both free agents. Would you have them? Zach McCaskill?
No. Nah.
Is Kirchhoff still a free agent?
Yeah. I read something a few weeks ago that he was in like a training camp for free agents in Germany, but clearly his injury issues are obviously far worse than we imagined, because like nobody must be prepared to take a risk on him.
I mean, he was like John Mensah level of bad. He was actually John Mensah got 2 more games. It was like that 6-month period where he was class. Like that game at St James's, like he just totally like mauled their midfield for like 60 minutes. Then he went off and we just shit ourselves. He's class, but I mean, he is made of Rizzler papers. Like it's
a shame,
like
it's a shame because I believe he's a top 6 player, like when fit.
Oh, easily. He's class.
Biggest one of the biggest.
He's a centre half by trade.
Yeah, well, maybe one of the biggest, disasters we've had really in the last 10 years or so. I would say would be the fact that Jan Kirchhoff, we couldn't keep him fit, and we couldn't, because there's a feeling there inside me that we certainly wouldn't have struggled as badly as we did last year with him fit every week, running the midfield. But yeah, come and gone. Kirchhoff, hopefully he sorts himself out. He's still young enough, and hopefully he gets himself a club, proves himself all over again. I'm gutted, really. He never really made it yet.
He's actually really young, isn't he? He's only like 25, 26.
Something like that, yeah.
If you look back last year, though, like just to see how far we've gone down, last year we were like begging Jan and Vila to come, and it was a horrible, horrible like end to the window because he didn't. This year we're signing like Mark Wilson.
Aye.
That's how things... I mean, don't get us wrong. I think where we are, it's a good signing. You can't look back, but like, fuck me, from like wanting and Vila to Mark Wilson on a free transfer. Just rank that, like...
those were the good old days, weren't they? When we were looking forward to Jan and Via coming through the doors.
Everyone's signing up to like an Instagram account.
It was like a year ago, and it's like the can for Jan thing. Everyone was convinced he was coming, then just died a death, didn't it?
What was the other one? What was the one?
I remember the very serious debate we had about going to catch him at the airport.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like, we were all going to get him going, go catch him at the airport.
Because he posted that he was at Heathrow or something, hadn't he?
Aye, that's right. With his mate. Both had really good snapbacks on that I could probably not pull off, but I remember that quite well. What was the other one? Was it Peruzzi watch a couple of years ago?
Aye, that was a mad window. That like there was a couple of. It was one of them where we had a couple of players didn't end up coming, and we were like Mendy was Mendy the same window? The guy who just signed for Man City, or was that the window before Peruzzi?
No, it was the same one.
Was it
like Mendy and Peruzzi, and we ended up with David Moberg Carlson instead.
Do you remember Alfred Duncan, the centre mid that was meant to be coming from Inter Milan? I don't think he amounted to anything. I think Ghanaian centre mid.
He was like a young kid when he was like 19, 20 or something like that.
Aye. I don't know what he amounted to actually. I would have to look up on that. Just again looking through the questions. Splendino. Question: how is Swansea a club we are much bigger than, signing players like Renato Sanchez, and we can't even get a decent goal scorer? Suppose because they're in the league above us is the main reason.
Aye, because they're in the Premiership. That's kind of a big one.
And Paul Clement's pulled in a huge favour getting him. Like Clement worked with him at Bayern. By all accounts, he's not had a great year at Bayern though. Like played something like 4 games for them. But he went in with a massive reputation, didn't he? Because he played so well for Portugal at the European Championships, and then just amounted to nothing. Someone said
Alfred Duncan
plays for Sassuolo.
Sassuolo, yeah.
No idea.
He was signed in a temporary deal with an obligation to sign him outright at the end of the season, something that we can't do for some reason. He apparently scored a thunderbolt against AC Milan in a 2-0 win. He's played like 54 games there or something. Is Sassuolo Serie A?
Yes, I think they are. Didn't have like one of the best goal scorers in the league, not last year but the year before, and then he was signed by Juve or something. Aye,
that's right.
That.
That's right.
Ethan Thorburn, if you could, which 3 ex-Sunderland players would you re-sign? I think is what he's asking. Well, like I'm presuming he means ones that aren't retired, like.
Aye, because I was going to say that you've got too much of a choice. Then, you know what? When it came up before, I took the mick, but like I actually wouldn't have minded Connor Wickham back. I mean, his attitude totally stinks, but he's got something to prove. He's been injured for a while, and I mean, he's soft as shite. But like in that league, he should boss that league. Like he should.
You'd think someone like Connor Wickham would boss the Championship. It's strange that he's never ended up there. Actually, I wonder what money he's on at Palace.
I think he's a high-level Championship player. I think definitely, that's literally what 100%. He is.
Like you look at players like Chris Wood, who've like 20-odd goals last season. Chris Wood ended up getting a decent move to Burnley, but like he's probably on that level, isn't he? Surely Connor Wickham. I don't think he was that. He struggled. He struggled at Sunderland at times, but then he showed glimmers of what he was capable of. Phil Oates is asking us, out of the 3 expected to sign, who do you reckon will be announced first?
McManaman.
Wilson, I reckon.
I'll say McManaman. You seem to be
they're clearly all going to be announced at the same time, guys. Come on. We've got 6 minutes to go. So it's going to be like boom, boom, boom.
They're probably waiting until 11 to announce, aren't they?
Yeah, and so that and in that way they don't really disappoint us. So what we're dealing with here, we've got 6 minutes left till the end of the transfer window. We haven't really talked about anyone else outside of Sunderland, but I suppose there's been plenty to talk about with Sunderland. What we're dealing with, we've got no strikers. It looks like we are relying purely on McManaman, Williams, Wilson, each with their own, not so much cons. Well, yeah, certainly cons, pros and cons. No striker. How are we going to? We are going to. I know I've asked this already, but it's just sinking in. We've got no striker. This is a really.
I think they're all good signings, but I just think like.
Yeah, I think if you look at it from objectively, but in reality, we haven't got what we needed. So yeah, it's all very well and good. We've got McGeady and we've got Graben and we've got McManaman. Let's say he plays well. Let's say they all play well, but we haven't got what we needed. We need a striker. So unless amongst these players, Grayson is relying on somebody to bang in goals, we aren't going to emulate Defoe. The point is we aren't going to emulate Defoe. That's what we weren't promised it, but we expected it. We all knew Defoe was going. We all knew we wouldn't get any money to sufficiently replace him. We all knew we couldn't really entice a player like that to replace him. So we just naturally assumed that the only way to replace him was to emulate him with 2 or 3 attacking players, and we failed to do that. McGeady can conjure goals. Well, he can't conjure goals. He can create goals. And Graban can latch onto balls, and he can latch on the balls. But you know what I mean? He can make goals happen as well. He can play his part. Vaughan even can be argued that he can play a role in the scoring of that goal. But we have no striker. We need a predator, and we don't have one. And Watmore's not going to bring that back. So I don't know what he's relying on. If he's relying on what more, he's relying on an inside winger.
I honestly think he's just very confident in his options. If for them not to pursue anybody else, I think he obviously would have liked the striker. But come on, there must have been somebody offered us.
Yeah, but it's not would have liked, is it? It's like have to get. That's what I mean. We haven't
financially viable, though, that's the thing.
Who is financially viable?
Well, nobody at the moment, because Ellis Short's completely cut the purse.
Well, even if he hasn't, surely there are loan options available for an out-and-out striker. Surely there are free agents available.
For loans, you've got to pay a loan fee and a chunk of the wage. So I don't think Ellis sees that as a viable option either.
If you were if I was in his shoes, in the situation where for some reason I couldn't even afford to bid for a striker with any kind of money, like even a couple $100,000, but you knew you needed one, which we do. That's unavoidable. There could be no argument that Grayson doesn't think we desperately need a striker that can score goals. That's apparent to a blind, deaf and dumb child who's never watched a game of football. Everybody knows this. God himself knows that we need a striker, and it's impossible to go through the rest of the season without one because we have no one to score goals. No one is scoring goals. Yes, Graban caught a couple. Graban grabbed a couple, but it's not sustainable. McGeady isn't sustainable. Even if McGeady was scoring on a par with his prime, which was it was in its. It was in double digits, but it wasn't great. It was like 13 goals, 14 goals in a season or something like that. With a lot of assists.
Sorry to put in. We've announced 3 signings.
Oh, there we go.
There's the klaxon. 2 minutes before 11.
Get in.
Mark Wilson on a 1-year deal, free transfer. Callum McManaman, 2-year deal, free transfer. Johnny Williams, season-long loan.
Lads, we're going to win the league.
Well, I wasn't expecting 2 of those to be frees, but
it's decent business, like.
Aye. Wait, I think McManaman's an interesting one, isn't he? He's a bit like in a way McGeady in the sense that he's got to prove himself all over again here. Because after winning, he won the cup at Wigan, didn't he? And he was one of the big stars of that team. Ever since his career's nosedived, essentially, I think he spent a little bit on loan at Sheffield and done nothing as well. And he's coming here really, and he's not guaranteed a start. I know we haven't got a great deal of width in our team, but I mean, when Watmore's fit, he plays every time. When McGeady's fit, he plays every time. So, from my perspective, I think it's nice to have options. We definitely needed width in the team. We definitely needed added options so that we were able to really compete. It's nice to have strength and depth, and I guess that's what McManaman brings. If he proves to be anything, anyways. I don't know about what the rest of you think about McManaman, but I think that. As a piece of business on a free transfer, it's risk-free, and it really
I completely agree on a free transfer. That's a really good deal. I mean, if only off the back of what I remember, and I remember very little about it, but I do remember a period of time when, as I said a couple of years ago, when I was watching him play and thinking, and hearing him linked with us in the transfer window and thinking, he looks like he'd be a really good signing. And then he went to West Brom, and I think I questioned that. It was around about the same time was it around about the same time as the whole Berahino nonsense that Keogh has nothing to do with Sunderland, but just Berahino being a dick and completely ruining his career, essentially.
Where is Berahino? Where the fuck is Berahino? He's still at Stoke.
Well, I haven't got him.
There's his centre forward.
He was warming up for Stoke at the weekend, wasn't he, against West Brom, and he was getting booed like hell just for warming up. West Brom fans really... He had that one really good season where, didn't Spurs offer 20-odd million and they turned it away?
Aye, 20 million or something like that.
It was. All right, lads, guys, you good people on the YouTube chat. What do you think of Berahino? If we could get him, I don't know if we could. I've got no idea. It just came to mind. What do you reckon?
Nah, I doubt we would get him. Although Stoke,
we're not going to get anyone now. I don't think we're going to get Berahino now. But
it would have been interesting, though. Somebody like that.
Yeah, definitely. That would have been exciting.
Obviously, we've been on this chat for a couple of hours now, and we haven't really kept much track of what's going on. But there's definitely strikers sitting in squads of teams in the Premier League that could have added something. I wonder if Danny Ings turned up anywhere. If anyone wants to give us a heads up in the comments.
Have you seen Keith Downey's tweet? Sunderland are working frantically to get the paperwork for Callum McManaman deal done. That kind of strikes me as like we fucked it.
The only one we mentioned as being a good deal potentially out of all of it.
The fax machine's fucked again.
Apparently they're both free transfers. Sorry if I went for a piss before, so sorry if you've talked about this already.
You know, when they said Academy of Light, I didn't realise it was like AOL, as in AOL fucking dial-up broadband. That's what they're fucking dealing with, isn't it? It's one of those fucking, can't afford anything, can't afford fixed broadband. We have to get one of those discs from the fucking late 2000s. Don't worry, Karen.
They managed to really sort Mika out right, though. Where's Mika going? Like, that's the big question, isn't it? Where's Mika?
Going nowhere. Well, Stryzek leaving today.
Going nowhere, boy.
That, didn't it? Like,
did we not pay $2 million for that little fucker?
No, I don't think we paid anything, did we? Didn't we basically just email every single club in Europe and ask if they had any spare keepers going? I remember that guy from Bordeaux. That guy from Bordeaux was close at Carasso, and he's been free this summer. But Mika was just brought here clearly under the pretense, mate, you're not going to play but you have a decent life. We'll pay you well. Just sit on my bench and look like you're doing something, because he's served no purpose here. He's served no purpose here. Like, there's been no point in signing that kid.
I've seen his whole Southern career, though. I was at the Livingston game and the Hibs game. I think that was the maximum that he played, and he was proper shit. Like he made Manone look like Pickford. He was he was really bad.
No mean feat, that, with his distribution.
Like, even like Dillaboji at the Hibs game, when Mika came on, you seen like the fear of God going to him, and you were like, oh, if he looks like he's worried, like, how shit is this kid? Like, and he just looked terrible. I think the actual Mika, do you know, the pop star, he would have probably been slightly better. It would have been entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have to agree with me on
that. That's one way of putting it. That's certainly a fact. Well, it's certainly a possibility. I don't know, when we got Mika, it was like, it reeked of a bad deal anyway, didn't it? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting the way, I think that makes it all the more painful with Jordan Pickford, is that goalkeepers, they're easy to come by. I'm not saying that we've replaced Jordan Pickford straight away. His distribution isn't easy to come by. That's what makes, if we're honest here, if we look at all of, he's a really good goalie between the sticks when it comes to saves, reaction time, and command of his own box. But when it comes to his real attribute that makes him worth 30 million, it's his distribution. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's not hard to get a goalkeeper that can actually stop the ball going into the net. It's hard to get a goalkeeper that can contribute to the attack of a team. They're rare. They are rare. They do exist, but they're very, very rare indeed. And that's why they paid 30 million for it. And 30 million is a lot of money, even in today's market where everything's incredibly expensive, ridiculously so, you might say. But with Jordan Pickford, we didn't need to sell that kid, man. Well, I maintain this. We didn't need to sell him, and we sold him because he was our best asset. He was our only asset, arguably, and we got 30 million for him. And we haven't seen a penny of that. And this is a valid time to mention it, because it's 4 minutes past the deadline window, and I believe we've spent, in the entire window, we've spent about 3 million. Is that right?
Less than that. It's been like
less than that.
1.25.
Well, there's one to I imagine
1.6.
I imagine one of these will have cost us some money. They won't be all for free, surely.
Talking about Pickford, it's horrible, though, because I work with an Everton fan, and like when he got him, he was like, oh, 30 million, it's quite a bit, that. Like, you know, he got relegated. And like every day I go into work when they've played, you can see the realization of how good he is. And he's like, oh, Pickford's distribution, this, that. And it's kind of like, I remember thinking 30 million was like the bare minimum, but like even he's like, I think that's a bargain, that, in today's market. Like, he's going to go on to be, I mean, didn't Southgate today, though, say he was going to play Joe Hart in the next England game because he thought he was the best English goalkeeper? Like, I think Pickford is. Like, I honestly think we could have pushed for a little bit more with that.
Yeah, it's not about how much we could have pushed for. I don't think that's relevant. I think if we'd pushed for more than 30 million for Pickford, like I was saying, you can get keepers that can stop the ball going in for a lot less than 30 million. You can get them for 5 million. Do you know what I mean? You can get them for less than that, arguably. I mean, the Reuter, as I say, we've got one. He's a good keeper. I think we agree with that. Yeah, I mean, even Stryjek was a good keeper. It's not no disrespect to any keepers out there. It's not a difficult job. I mean, it's as difficult a job as in any football job is difficult, which is to say it's very athletically taxing. But with regards to the actual sort of responsibility you have on the pitch. You have to have command of your immediate area, and you have to be able to have reactions and the ability.
Williams is confirmed, by the way.
Oh, is it? Williams is confirmed.
Williams.
That's why we're here.
Who's been confirmed? Sorry, missed that.
Williams.
Scarf photo.
Woo!
Not on SFC, but there's like a leaked photo of him looking a little bit like a blonde David Vaughan. Which
he's
is
an
not
unfortunate looking fucker, and he bless him.
Why? He's Welsh. Is he Welsh?
Yeah.
Oh, it must be a thing. Maybe they're related, which I've got no problem with. Yeah, I quite like David Vaughan, but he's got like quite a bad receding hairline.
He's got a proper like Sunday league footballer haircut, like. Apparently, very good footballer though. He can look like whatever he wants as long as he does the biz. Like,
apparently he's really good. But I would love to say I know stuff about him, but I just didn't.
It's good thing you bring us on to that, because I spoke with Palace fanzine earlier just about him. We've got that on the website if anyone wants to check it out. But he was really complimentary of him. So I asked him, I don't really know a lot about him, but what can you tell us? And the guy from the fanzine, which is called 5 Year Plan, very popular fanzine, Crystal Palace, he said he'll get a player that works tirelessly. He's great on the ball. Is always ready to receive it and looking for passes. Is positive in his approach both on and off the pitch. He's a lovely character anyway, but he's a popular player too. With a run of games, he'll make things happen. So then I went and asked why it's not worked out at Palace. Why, there's obviously a reason to loan them out. And clearly the issue with him is his injury problems. He's had numerous injury issues, and the guy I spoke to said it's not just in one place. He's having injuries and they're all different, which is obviously a big issue. It indicates he's maybe a little bit fragile and not up to the rigours of playing a lot of football. There's a comment here after his trip to the Euros with Wales last year. Williams came back to Palace with the intention to push the first team football, only to then get crunched with a horror tackle in the club's final pre-season fixture. The ankle injury he suffered took months to recover from. So what we're effectively getting is a player on the back of a bad injury spell who, if he can stay fit, is going to be a very, very big asset to this team. I can't profess to know a lot about him, but I take this guy's word, and I genuinely think he could be a good signing, even if he doesn't stay beyond the length of his contract. I also asked, he's very young. What do you expect to happen with him down the line? Do you think he'll stay, or will he move on? And he said in a dream scenario, Williams would help Sun to win promotion and return to Palace to stake a real claim for first team football. However, there's an overriding fear amongst Palace fans with his injury record that might have seen him having much hope of making an impact at the club. That said, because he's played so many games for the club at such a young age, it's often forgotten that he's just 23-year-old. And then I obviously asked, for any Sunderland fans who are meeting this with a bit of trepidation, aren't sure about him, what would you say? He said, just ask any Ipswich fan what to think of him and his abilities, popularity at Palace, and Ipswich is for good reason. With games under his belt, he should be a great addition. He deserves success after his injury difficulties. So, that's as ringing as an endorsement as you can give, apart from the fact that he's always injured. I've got a lot, a lot of hope that might come good, and we definitely need number 10. Like, there was this hope for a long time that Kazri would be a good number 10, but I just don't think he's as disciplined on the ball as a number 10 needs to be. And maybe that's what Williams will bring. He'll not lose the ball half as much, and maybe link the play, and maybe get more out of the strikers as well, which is a big thing. Like, we're talking about needing a striker. If we did have that link from midfield to attack, and we improved it, and we had better players in there, then maybe the likes of Graben and Vaughan even would be more prolific. You've got to. I always say about any new signing that we have to treat them with a clean slate as soon as they come through the door. For any player to drop from the Premier League down to the Championship, there's a reason. Clearly with Williams, there's a reason, and it's injuries. With Mark Wilson, he's just not playing football. Callum McManaman just not playing football. So these are lads who've got to prove themselves, and I guess that's the big take from it. All right, on an ideal situation, in an ideal scenario, we would have paid money for players and brought in a better quality, but these are talented players who've played Premier League football and need to prove themselves again, and just give them a chance, I guess, is my motto.
Yeah, it's my motto. Give them a chance. That's Gav's motto.
Has anyone seen the photo of Kazri signing for Rennes? He's proper sucking in. It's like he looks like he's lost a stone, but he's not. Like, he's just sucking in.
Has he got his Under Armour on?
That's an interesting point. Kazri was always called fat when he came back.
For a professional footballer.
I wish I was as fat as him.
Oh, I mean,
you know what I mean?
same,
Imagine what
but-
he's fat on, though. I mean, shit, we get fat on cheap food and beer. What does he get fat on? What do you get fat on when you paid like 60 grand a week?
Apparently, he was never out of Cafe Nero. I've seen loads of people saying that, like, "Oh, Cafe Nero's profits will take a hit." He likes a coffee and.
Was it only just
Yes,
one? Was it one Cafe Nero in particular? Was it one Cafe Nero in particular?
No idea.
I wonder if he was
If it
just
was,
like,
then we should probably investigate that Cafe Nero.
just walking past like the granola slices, like, oh, I should say no, but oh, fuck it, I'm not playing on Saturday anyway. I'll just have one.
No, that only happens to vegans, Graham. The rest of us.
Well, very true. Very true.
Ooh,
only took 20 minutes, but we're there.
Can you comment on in the comments on YouTube, lads? Jordan Ramsey. Can we all just take note of how well Grayson has done this window with the money he's used?
Yes, I saw that. Absolutely.
Striker.
I agree. He hasn't signed a striker, but I agree that he's done very well with what he's got. When we, it's
well, he has signed a striker, and he signed 2 strikers.
No, I mean like actual strikers that can actually score goals. It's like I just feel a little bit like it's like going to buy a house, but just going, we'll just leave the sitting room. We don't need one. It'll be all right. Like the one thing we needed was a decent centre forward, and he signed like Vaughan, who I'm sure he's a lovely lad, but he's not very good, is he? And I don't think Graben's necessarily a centre forward. I feel like Graben's what we were told he was, like that kind of like wing centre forward. Like I think he has done well. He has done well, but like he's missed the most obvious position. Like he needs an out and out centre forward. That division needs an out and out centre forward. How much of that is his fault? I don't know, but I think that should have been priority position. Yeah,
obviously, I think. Well, not obviously to mean your point. I completely agree. It should have been a priority. That's what we said earlier, wasn't it? It's something that should have absolutely been a priority. But I think with regards to specifically what that gentleman was talking about, like the Jordan Ramsey, talking about what he's actually got with his money on paper now. When we're looking at our squad, brought in by Grayson, we're looking at Aidan McGeady, Lewis Graban, James Vaughan, Johnny Williams, Mark Wilson, and Callum McManaman, although Callum McManaman yet to be announced, I believe. So
Honeyman's in there as well.
Honeyman? How would Honeyman be in there?
Oh, I thought you were going through striking options, sorry.
No. So just talking about all the players that he's brought in, just in this window, when we consider what we know about how much he's spent, we're looking at what, less than 2 million or 2 million? I mean, for under 2 million, he's got Callum McManaman, he's got Mark Wilson, he's got Aidan McGeady, and he's got Lewis Graban. And we've also got Rob Reuter in goal, and Steele as well, who isn't my
biggest outlay on Steele then, £500,000.
I think so. Yeah, that must be it. I mean, surely one of these was there was a transfer of money. Surely one of them.
Was it not Vaughan? Was Vaughan not like 600,000 or something?
Well, it was 250 on McGeady, and if we spent 1.25 million before whatever happened tonight, it was
I suppose when you look at it, like, I mean, I've probably been a bit harsh before. It's ridiculous when you think of the money that he's actually spent. He's spent like 20 pence. Like, it's been nothing. Like, I mean, McGeady for 250,000. It's now that.
No, it's a solid purchase. I mean, if it was, but that's the trouble, isn't it? It's all about the right.
Mark Wilson confirmed.
Yeah, Bournemouth have confirmed Mark Wilson. We haven't, but they have. So
they have.
They've confirmed him to us.
On a
permanent basis. Mark Wilson joined Sunderland on a permanent basis.
Sunderland have confirmed it now. There we go.
This is the statement. A very, very short statement on their website. But defender Mark Wilson has joined Sunderland on a permanent basis. Wilson, 30, joined the Sharks last summer from Stoke City, but was loaned to West Brom in January. The Irishman made 3 cup appearances for the club since rejoining, and will now play alongside Sherry's loanee Lewis Graban at the Stadium of Light.
I can't believe he's only 30.
Good signing that. It's a good signing that.
Something I read before said 29. Definitely when I read it out, didn't it?
Maybe today's his birthday. Don't check that.
Today's his birthday, and he's in another country where they're 2 hours ahead.
Well, that's very possible.
Well, as we're saying, we're in a fuck's sake. Going back to my original point, I know it's better to laugh it off, but the reality is we don't have a goal scorer.
No.
So, from a very Sunderland point of view, what do? We can't wait Duncan Watmore. We can't rely on him. Can't rely on Aidan McGeady. I mean, even if he was fit, or rather, even if he was firing on all cylinders and just being like banging goals in, or rather giving assists every game, every other game, it won't happen forever. He hasn't got 46 games in him. No,
it's unreasonable to expect that of him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But
so what do we do now? How do we compensate for Jermaine Defoe? I suppose that's the big question, isn't it? That's the overarching question. How do we compensate for the loss of Jermaine Defoe?
You don't. What you do is
that's it. Good night, everybody.
The issue I guess with our team last season, although Defoe scored the brunt of the goals and was reliable for large parts of the season, I think the team suffered as a result of his inclusion. Like, he was there and took the brunt of the expectation when it come to goal scoring, but that kind of led to us not having very many goals from other areas of the pitch. You know what I mean? Like, wasn't Patrick Van Aanholt our second top goal scorer or third top goal scorer despite leaving in January? Like that, we need, ultimately, when we came to rebuild this team in the summer, we needed to add goals in more than one area. We needed to be a more well-rounded squad, I guess. You'd like to think that if McManaman's fit and firing and putting balls in the box, that the strikers will benefit from it more. McGeady, there's less expectation on him to do everything. You might see a better player out of him. And then you're obviously looking at Williams, although his goal-scoring record is very unremarkable for a player who's supposedly a number 10. You'd like to think that if he's going to play every week and contribute higher up the pitch, that the team as a whole will benefit and it'll not just be about one player. So I guess that's one way you can take it, is although we haven't signed another striker, because I do think Graben's a good player, but although we haven't signed another striker, I think it's more about what the team as a whole can provide and whether we can maybe work on being more threatening at both ends of the pitch. Like, we concede too many from set pieces and we don't score enough from them. Like that's another big issue we've got in this squad. And if that's something we can look to get around, I guess, and maybe have better deliveries going in the box, and then it won't matter that we haven't got a man standing out scoring all the goals. Like you know, you don't, promoted teams don't always get promoted just because one player bangs them in for fun. Like, Leeds didn't even make the playoffs last year and had the top scorer in the league. It's more the case of that, you know, hopefully with a stronger squad, a more balanced squad, we'll see a better return overall. Like, Watmore hopefully is going to make an impact, although I don't want to expect too much initially. I do think that's maybe, like I've mentioned earlier, I do think that the placing a lot of expectation maybe on him coming back and being able to contribute.
Will he contribute?
Spurs, by the way.
Oh,
just randomly. Sorry, I don't know why it matters. Doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form. No one really gives a shit. But 12 million apparently.
There's been some interest. I mean, let's talk about transfer deadline day in general. There's been some about the transfer window just for a bit, just before we wrap up shortly, because it doesn't seem like there's anything more coming out of out of the academy. It doesn't seem like there's anything going to happen for Sunderland, which is a bit of a shame. But quick overarching thing of all teams and all players. I mean, me personally, been shocked at West Ham's business or lack of business. To be honest with you, I think they've bought terribly. I think they're really suffering under the owner they've got. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think all the owners they've got. I think David Gold in particular, like, bad piece of work for them. Don't think it goes well. I don't think Slaven Bilic really fits the squad that he's got. I think, it can bring us back to Sunderland, really, because with Allardyce, there was a lot of complaints from his fans, or rather not his fans, his detractors, but West Ham fans, when he was there, about how there was no West Ham way. I think they were talking about this whole fucking supposedly attacking football that you get from West Ham. I don't know, personally. Not a fan. But it's interesting the amount of hassle that he got from the fans in general. When he moved on, he was he wasn't really defensive about that when he came to Sunderland. You could see, I think he published a book between when he left West Ham and when sort of just into, I think that like the last few words are about Sunderland. Well, there was a piece in all the opening bits about Sunderland where he currently was, but the rest of the book was obviously written previously when he was at West Ham. And he was quite bitter about it. But with that comes this sort of passion and this integrity that I personally like from a manager. He's like clearly emotionally invested, and it hurts them when the fans kick off about it and complain about the way they do their job. So it's interesting now with a completely different manager who seemingly can't not get the best out of his squad, but he can't get the best out of his actual bosses. He can't get the best out of his employers. He can't get the money that he needs to do the job that he's supposed to do. I don't know. I suppose I'm sitting here feeling a little bit sorry for Simon Grayson, to be honest. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. I agree.
It can't be easy being him right now, because surely he didn't sign up for this situation.
I don't know. I think he maybe didn't know the extent of it.
It sounds like he's been sold a couple of false promises.
Yeah. I think when he's speaking at the start of the window about his phone ringing off the hook from players wanting to join Sunderland, and then talking about having not the best budget in the league, but certainly a competitive one. Like, when you consider he's probably spent about £2 to £3 million in total, if that. That's not a competitive budget. That, I think before today, there was only 5 teams that spent less than Sunderland in the whole league. One of which was Barnsley, who've just trounced us. He can't have been fully aware of that. I think maybe the club were expecting to sell Coney, the club were expecting to sell Khazri, and just weren't able to. Obviously, he would have had a little bit more to spend had that been the case. But he just didn't have. He didn't have enough to even bring in a player of Hugo's ability. I don't know whether he was that interested in him, but I mean, we all know that we're sorely lacking a goal scoring target man, and there's a man who we had playing under him just last season. So I think I don't know what the people listening think. Maybe they want to leave some comments about what they think about Grayson, what he missed all promises and what have you. But I mean, the job he's done, when you consider the amount of money that's been spent, fairly extraordinary. But
he's done a good job. Yeah, it's fair to say that it's not his fault for this. I mean, you could argue again that he took the job, but I don't know. It doesn't strike me as the Moyes type that's going to walk away with millions. I suppose that's something that really digs at you as well, is that every time a manager comes in and complains about there being no funds, he leaves and gets paid off. And it's sort of like, it's counterintuitive, isn't it? It's really, it's counterproductive as well. It's not cost effective. It doesn't make any sense. Manager's coming in, there's no money at this club, I'm leaving, but I'll take £3 million with me. And that's undoubtedly one of our outlays. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were still paying money to the last couple of managers. I think that's feasible, isn't it?
Maybe not still paying them, but we'll have had to fork out a lot of money.
Oh yeah. And would it have been paid up front? Surely.
Surely. Yeah.
How much we scraped together. I don't know. I'm sure some of these people would be happy to accept, I don't know, $1 million over 3 years. Think about it.
Nah, I'd rather have it all.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You've got to think like, in the case of the managers we've laid off, like, how can you budget for that? Like, maybe in Sunderland's case you probably can, because we go through managers like, there's no tomorrow, but like, you can't budget for a manager leaving. So when you want to sack one, what do you do? Really? How do you even account for that? Is that not just something that comes out of short pocket? Even still, we're talking about this like managers being sacked, but when you look at the last 5 or 6, not many of them have been sacked, I don't think. I mean, Moyes wasn't sacked, was he? Wasn't that a mutual agreement, or he walked?
He resigned, didn't he?
Yeah, and then before him, Allardyce left for the England job. We made money from that. Before Allardyce was Dick Advocat, who resigned. Before Advocat was Poirier, who resigned. So you're talking about something different, yeah. I mean, there may have been an agreement to let them managers go, but I mean, it's not like we've went out and sacked them and it's come straight out of a...
Yeah, but there's no way they were walking away with no money.
No. I certainly believe that in the case of Moyes. I don't think that was one way or the other. I think that was a case of, all right, you've got a 4-year contract or 3 year left of a 4-year contract, but you need to go. If we give you this much money, we'll call it a mutual thing and we'll part ways. Mutually beneficial. He makes a little bit of money and the club save a little bit through not sacking him. I don't know.
Yeah, but who are you depending on there? You're depending on some fantasy freaking intellectual that's running the club that's actually thinking logically the way you and I might when we're talking about how few our finances are. Like, in reality, who is there to make that decision? That's not happening, is it? I mean, we haven't got a striker. I don't want to. Well, I do, and I don't want to keep coming back to this point. I suppose that's the overriding point of the entire night, isn't it? That's the ending to our tale, is that we don't have a striker. Not just a striker, we don't have any attacking impetus. I suppose we have some, but not enough to build up any momentum, not enough to really be lethal in the final third. We have nothing that will frighten anyone. on the pitch. It's like players like Ndong. I mean, it's a shame to rely on him really because he's so young. Ideally, you want to be in a situation where a player like Ndong is coming through as a prospect, or rather, not a prospect, but he's allowed enough time to bed in, not to this scenario, like straight into the deep end. But with players like him, we're relying on youth, or we're relying on his abilities, we're relying on his composure in a situation where you've got players who are very experienced at this level and players who are very, well, they're aware. You know, their managers will make them aware. Their coaches will make them aware that the players they come up against, they'll make them aware of how they act. And Ndong is very clearly a player who needs support all the time. He needs strong support, otherwise he can go missing. He's a great player, fantastic range of passing, fantastic accuracy on his day, very good work ethic, very strong, eager as well. He goes into challenges, he takes the ball back, which you don't really see that much. It seems to be whenever Catmull goes to take the ball back, he ends up not getting yellow. But, I mean, actually, to be fair, I'm not going to say that, because Lee Catmull's awesome. He's probably my favourite player. Let's talk about that, actually. Everyone's favourite player. Gav, who's your favourite Sunderland player now?
Currently, Catmull. Has to be Cat. Like, just
it's got to be you.
For his shortcomings. For his shortcomings, though, he's just everything that embodies this club to me. He's just a committed leader. Loves getting stuck in. People look up to him on the pitch. It's just a shame he's never been fit much over his time here. But what I am glad about is that we've been able to, maybe by bringing a player in Williams that can complement him slightly, and maybe that'll lessen the need for him and Ndong to maraud forward as much if they've got a capable number 10 sitting in front of them who can link the play and make bring the most out of someone like Catmull. We might see a bit more from him this year than we have maybe since he started getting injured those early days, because he's been in and out of the team, hasn't he? But yeah, Cat's for me. Cat's definitely the type of player that you want at this club. Someone the young players can look up to, and I don't buy into this rotten core thing when it comes to Catmull. I think just a decent bloke who gets it, and for all of his flaws, maybe is more about Sunderland than perhaps any player we've signed in the last 15 years.
That's true to say. Graham?
Probably McGeady. I think I just like...
Doesn't take long with you, does it? You're a cheap date.
Yeah, pretty much. There's Williams confirmed, but just to kind of reiterate my point, I think since I've watched Sunderland, I've always just like I think Martin Smith was my first favourite player, and it was just someone who can get the ball and just makes me get off my seat. Like, I loved Sessegnon. Even when he was shite, when he got the ball, I thought something might happen here. And I feel a little bit like that with McGeady. So, I mean, Catmull's the obvious one, but I don't know about Catmull at the minute. I'd say probably McGeady, yeah, because he's just the only player on the team that can get the ball and make you think something might actually happen.
Yeah. Okay, what about you, Copley?
My favourite current player probably would have to be Catmull, just for the tenacity in the midfield. As Gav said, he's been here a long time. And we've always had that kind of hard-working midfielder going back to the Bobby Kerr days. It kind of typifies the club in a way. We've had Kevin Ball and Gary Bennett in that mould, Grant Ledbetter, and I think Catmull really continues on that tradition. So he'd probably be my current player, if anything, just because he's been around the longest as well.
Fair enough. Well, for me personally, I think I would also say Lee Catmull. It's interesting. It's an interesting... I suppose everyone would agree that he symbolises what we want at Sunderland, doesn't he? He symbolises like the right attitude.
And he goes round Newcastle smashing cars up with Nicholas Benton. Yeah. So what more can you...
Fuck the mags.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, well, with that in mind, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been fantastic doing our first live show with you. Shouldn't be the end of it, I don't think. I think we should continue. So what we'll do is we'll get some retweets, we'll get some feedback. Do be sure to give us a shout on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Acast. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Talk to us on Facebook. Go visit rokerreport.com. There's loads of ways you can get in touch with us, actually, you lucky people. So, yeah, you do that. And let us know what you want. Let us know what you want from future podcasts, and we'll do this more often. But, yeah, thanks for joining us. It'd be great if Sunderland had signed a striker. They didn't. But from me and the rest of the Roker Report crew, yeah, cheers very much. It's been emotional. And we'll see you in the near future. Take care now.